not fun fact, but like morbid fact. So like dentists have like some of the highest suicide rates for white collar professions.
I knew that about doctors in general. Why dentists?
I imagine that for dentists it might be chronic pain sometimes, right? Because like sometimes, I mean, like I've seen a lot of dentists have to leave the profession with like pretty significant spinal issues. So I always thought maybe like a little bit of chronic pain, or I mean just getting told every day you're hated. At least once a day someone says, I hate the dentist, man. I don't hate you, but I hate the dentist. And I'm like, okay. There's patients who are like, I don't know why people hate the dentist. I love the dentist. It's like self-care. It's like coming to get like a, like a facial, like, or getting my eyelashes done. I'm like, yeah.
Preventive maintenance.
Yeah.
No, trust me, I
Oh, God damn it.
The truth comes
Did
out.
you hear nothing?
The Ruffled Feathers Podcast.
Well, thanks for making it, guys. Welcome to the Ruffled Feathers Podcast. We're doing tattoos. We're hanging out. I'm your host, Bird, tattoo artist of 14 years. Nice to meet everyone. Well, I know you, Natalie.
Yeah. So I know Pablo from the gym, and we were always talking. And he was like, hey, let's go actually talk on camera. And I was like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
And here we are. Camera's on. Camera's rolling.
Yeah, it's going.
We got Anaí here getting tatted up. Anaí, hello.
Hey, you guys. Hey, here getting inked today. Getting in the skin, hitting it, doing some creative flow of it all. So far, so good.
We just started, which is different from our normal format. I usually have some done already, but time constraints. It is what it is. Well, here we are. Oh, and of course, our truth-seeking co-host, Pablo.
What's up, everybody?
Hello.
So, Anaí, what's on the agenda for the tattoo today?
Well, today we're going to get a Frida Kahlo portrait up. So last month I was able to go to Mexico and go through the whole experience of going to her house called La Casa Azul, which is still standing and now became a museum. So that's pretty nice that the people decided to open it and share all her great history with us. So I was able to walk around, and there, you were able to see like all of her art, all of her utensils that she used along the way, and all her pretty much paintings as well, and sculptures.
It's crazy because you showed me some of the pictures you took over there, and I don't know anything about Frida. I know they had the Selma Hayek movie, which I was gonna watch it because of her, but I think I got halfway through it or into the halfway. I was like, I'd rather start it from the beginning, but she's pretty wild life.
Yeah.
We actually, if for our viewers who don't know and want to educate, just so we can stay on topic of Frida for a little bit, we have like a little quick docu short of Frida's bio. So
check it out.
Miggies, if you don't mind.
In 1929, 22-year-old Frida marries the renowned 43-year-old artist Diego Rivera. Despite their age gap, Frida is madly in love. Frida longs to start a family with Diego, but suffers multiple miscarriages. In 1935, Frida discovers Diego's affair with her own sister Cristina. Frida paints herself as three versions: her innocent childhood self, her past happy self with Diego, and her agonized present self. Cupid's arrow pierces through the hole in her chest. Frida moves to America, attempting to numb the pain through alcohol, drugs, and promiscuity. But Diego has left a permanent wound.
Wow.
Her sister.
That's crazy. I did not know that. Are you familiar with Frida Kahlo?
Yeah, so I do enjoy art a lot, and so I'll go to like art exhibits, and they had an immersive Frida Kahlo exhibit about like a couple years ago, and so I knew a little bit of the history. She also like suffered from like a car accident where it did mangle her like reproductive organs and stuff in it, so it like really messed her up emotionally and mentally.
That was why she had all the miscarriages, right?
Yeah, and so I mean, it has to really suck to be in that position where you want to be a mother, you want to have a family, with a person that you love, and that person betrays you. Not only, two people betray you, right? Like your sister and your husband, right?
Yeah.
So like her art, like I always kind of fell in love with the fact that she had all these like dark paintings, right? And then she also has these beautiful bright paintings, and you can see like the scope of her emotions in them really well. It almost like when you go to when you went to the immersive exhibit, a lot of times you could kind of see it almost felt bipolar, right? Like because you would be in these like really bright, types of art, and then all of a sudden you'd see gore, death, dismemberment, right? And so you can kind of see, that she was going through some stuff, and then you can see her also empower herself, right? But yeah, so I did know a little bit about her. I was a big fan of Diego Rivera because he's, obviously a renowned muralist, right? Until I found out he was,
Dark
he was a man.
cheater. Yeah.
He was a man.
Then I was gone. I was like, I'm not a fan anymore.
This is hard, man. I mean, I guess that's like just life in general, like there's beauty and there's darkness, It's inevitable, but that is a painful experience, man. That's why she painted that one with like a heartless piece. It's also not just heartless, but it's like see-through, It's like a deep hole that goes all the way through. Yeah. So yeah, art is the way.
She also she had to wear the braces, right, to walk too.
Well, after her accident,
it
came to a point that she couldn't move or anything. She went through several surgeries for her to just be able to anything. So in the process of the museum, like you're able to see all of her equipment, everything that she used along the way.
Right.
And in every room that you walk in there, you can feel the energies, the sadness, the desperation, the wanting of. It was so heavy.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh man. And then, being able to see all of her stuff out there laid out, and it was just phenomenal, and then you come back here and then you see like, oh my God, I was there. And like, I saw this, like, it's just a phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
That's awesome.
But I think, like, was the saying, art imitates life, and that's why I enjoy art, because art is pain. Life is pain. We're not immune to it. Anyone. And then for her story, it sucks. But I have my own personal story. I'm sure we all have our own personal stories of why we're a little jaded. Or why
rough around the edges.
But that's what makes, I think, all of us unique and beautiful, and but it's also why we're all worth listening to, and that's one of the genesis ideas of the podcast is to bring us together through our understanding of life, and I feel like we're losing that as a society a lot of it. And
like the compassion and like the understanding for one another, and like the selfishness or unselfishness.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So I know like she's kind of linked to Salvador Dali, right? Or Salvador Dali was also like obsessed with her, and he portrayed her, right? Like he painted her a lot.
She was very political. I didn't follow too much into that because she had very communist beliefs. Yeah, so she was definitely
super commie.
Yeah, she was super commie, and you see that in the immersive. And it's kind of like one of those things that you appreciate who she was as a person, and then you obviously you get to the political portion, and it's almost like taboo, like, oh, we don't really want to talk about how she was communist, but she was definitely
right.
So for those who don't know, Migs, can you bring up the definition of a communist or communism? Because I think a lot of the words today like lose meaning because people don't even know what they're defined as. Which is a hard way to have an argument or just a discussion if you can't even agree on terms of what
educated on what you're discussing, or like the topic at hand.
So communism, a political theory. Sorry, I don't have my glasses.
I was just gonna say that.
Tattooing.
My LASIK. A political theory derived from Karl Marx, advocating class way and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid accordingly to their abilities and needs. So it's pretty much the opposite of what this country believes in, is in more individualism. That one is more, everybody puts towards a collective goal, which to me always sounds nice, but to me that just means there's still someone who gets to decide where that money goes, where the resources go, and who gets empowered through that. So
because it has a mask of like fairness, like, oh, fairness for everybody gets a fair share. But in depth, it's not as positive as we would want it to be, or as it presents itself to be.
Well, I think it takes out the history of people, right? Because it's like, historically, when has that ever been the case where someone does the good deed and it just gets passed along through the masses? There's always greed elements that end up happening in corruption, and that's pretty much what we see in communist places that are around today, where it's just the head of state gets to decide everything, and only people who are good with the head of state get those benefits. And I think artists tend to fall into this communist Marxist way because we want to think the good of people. I always think the good of people, but I'm a realist and understand people.
Most of it all.
But it's crazy, like, from her coming from Mexico, like, for her to have those opinions and those thoughts, like, where do you think that derived from? From the pain, from the suffering that she went through? Like, did she get bitter? Did the world turn her?
Well, she went through a lot. I'll let you know this. And like I mentioned, she, after her accident, she was literally in a wheelchair. She couldn't do much. There's this poem that she had in one of the rooms that she mentioned. I may not have legs, but it has something to do with butterflies. So she was able to fly away with her thoughts with SS butterflies. So that was her way of seeing into freedom of. And plus, back in the 1920s, everything was just way different,
Right.
Also, she was, I feel like, young, right? So, like, your frontal cortex isn't developed till, like, you're 25.
True.
A lot of times, the things that you thought when you were in your 20s is definitely not the same that you believe, 15 years down the road. And it just depends on what part of your life, in what stage of your life you're at. It's going to definitely influence the way that you feel politically. Again, like I said, that's not something that I ever, like, studied about her, so I can't say with, like, 100% certainty. But again, she was a young artist, and like anyone that's young, right? You're not jaded yet, right? You definitely have like these high hopes, these utopian
of humanity.
Yeah, definitely. No.
Which is a beautiful thing, but it's also like,
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's dangerous if you don't realize you can still walk down the street and get mugged and raped and killed because they wanted your nice chain, or in this case she's wearing a nice pretty necklace. And I think that's where like you talk about being young, like that being naive to these facts of life, and then falling into these concepts of communism, like we should all share what we have and help the less fortunate. But again, like, if that just has never had it how it turns out. There's always someone in there saying, okay, yeah, well, let me divvy up where that money goes and I'll take care of everyone because y'all trust me, right? And everyone's like, yeah, you're a good person. And then it's 20 years later, like, everyone's poor, everyone's more hungry, and no one's able to create for themselves because they've just given up everything to their government or to those people that they believed in, and you're right back to where you started.
Yeah, because the surroundings, change too, and the time.
Yeah,
time
most
makes
definitely.
A huge difference in our existence, but
maybe that back in the day, that was their way of thinking of surviving. Time evolved, time changed, and now, more structure into everything. Now there's certain ways to do things and laws to follow according to anywhere you're at. So,
Well, Mexico's got a weird political history too. Like, it's always been changing. The Spaniards owned it for a long time, and the even going back towards the natives, the Aztecs, and like they were always warring and taking over each other.
And it's influenced a lot by faith.
Yeah,
religion.
most definitely. Even when you land in Mexico City, you go into downtown of Mexico City. There's like, I guess donde vive Maximiliano, donde vivía el palacio de Maximiliano y Carlota.
El Zócalo.
Sí, cerca del Zócalo, creo. No, creo que no está al otro lado. Y enseña like, it's the whole cast of them, how they lived back in the days.
Yeah.
Like, every room has so much, the texture of it all, and then, like, every room meant something, and it's like, and then it shows, like, the gold and how rich they were back in the days.
So you mean Chapultepec?
Sí, en
Yeah,
Chapultepec,
yeah,
sí, sí.
No, there is a lot of history and a lot of powerful events that happen in Mexico. You know, like being Catholic or being raised Catholic. You know, Hispanics in general are big on the Guadalupana and you know, Our Lady Guadalupe and stuff like that. But it has suffered a lot. It's seen a lot of blood and a lot of violence.
Oh,
know?
most definitely. I agree with
Civil
you.
War.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not the only place, obviously, but I guess it relates to us more closely. You know, but. Now in the state that we're in, you know, 2025, things are completely different and some could even say radical, you know, like.
I agree. I mean, we're at a point that I've never seen in my life where we can't even have conversations without looking around our neck and saying, like, can I say this? Am I going to get in trouble for saying this? And that's never been me. It's always been like, this is how I feel. If you like it, cool. If not, cool too. You know, like.
Well, now you have that social component, right? So, like, if it goes viral and people just don't agree with you, right? They'll find where you work. They'll
dox you.
They'll write bad reviews. They'll make you lose your job. Like, I mean, people get really, really passionate about feeling a certain type of way without sitting there and trying to really comprehend where that epistemology comes from. So just like a really fancy way of saying, like, hey, like, why did these beliefs occur for you? Just like we were talking about, why did Frida's beliefs become so radicalized, right? What happened in this person's life to make them so radical? So like without sitting around and like having like just a very open discussion about why your views are so left or so right, then you're never going to really, you know, have compassion for that person. You're never really going to come to a like medium, because now you're sitting there just attacking each other, right? So if you're attacking each other, nothing's ever going to get solved.
Right. Well, it's a limited way of entering a conversation if you just believe that one side is right or that your beliefs are the right ones, right? Like, I think we as humans, as, you know, brothers and sisters, you know, as the human race, we should be compassionate for one another's history and story and like understand, like, okay, I don't understand, but I'm still willing to hear you, and maybe you could teach me a thing or two, you know, and maybe make me see that in a different light, in a new light, and open up my mind in a way, right? Because I think we're obligated to grow and to improve as humans, and obviously as we get older, you know, things change. It's easier to be more at peace, approach a situation more calmly and with more listening than just wanting to speak my mind, you know. And I think that's where we're at today, where it's like no certain views are stopped at, no, this is wrong, and I'm not willing to hear your side, even if you have some facts or some kind of positive input.
Or just even if you have a point, even though you don't believe in the point that they're making, there is still a valid point. Like I get into arguments with people all the time about living in the hood, and people talking about how, well, all these people are getting arrested and locked up, you know, these poor people. I'm like, have you ever lived in the hood? Well, no. I have. There's people that terrorize us every fucking day who are breaking into our houses when we're trying to do the right thing, and you want to put them back on the streets for us to deal with, and then we're the ones calling the cops, not y'all. We're the ones calling the cops because my house got broken into, or we got shot up, or you know, this dude's stealing a weed eater out the garage. Like, why? Tell me how it makes sense for my situation that we shouldn't be locking people up who are literally hurting the people in the most, you know, deprived areas. And, you know, you get into climate change, you know, oh, you know, if y'all live in the hood people litter the most. I'm sorry. Essays, black people, white trash, whatever you want to call it. Like, our studio's in the hood. We clean up the front of our studio every fucking week. And just yesterday, a girl's throwing out all her tissues, a pizza box she had in her car. And we called her out. It's like, what are you doing? Like, but this is just because they don't know any better. It's like, no, bullshit. They know exactly what they're doing.
But also they feel attacked. You know, you're calling them out on something that's like, you know.
Then they want to stand their ground,
Yeah,
right? Because
they're the
she-
victim.
no,
They're the
'cause-
victim, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of times I mean, you have to call people out, but sometimes it's the delivery, right?
Mhm,
And so,
absolutely.
like, again, when it's someone you don't know, it's easier to, like, let your emotions get the better of you, right? Like, I mean, think of, a lot of times I always try to think of how would I respond to my husband, right? Because that as a relationship I want to keep forever, right?
Yeah.
So I try to keep my emotions in check, and the delivery that we give each other has to be on point for us to be able to hear without getting defensive.
100%.
And so again, a lot of times, like, again, immediately, even though you know you're in the wrong and someone calls you out and they, you know, you immediately know, like, human is to want to get defensive, right? Like, you want to get defensive and be like, no, I'm doing it, I'm gonna do it with my chest, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people in that moment won't back down. Later on, they'll be like, man, I probably shouldn't have done that, right?
Yep.
And again, it's that initial bravado, like, oh, I did it and I'm gonna do it with my chest, and you called me out, but I don't want to say I'm wrong right here and now.
That
Right.
pride, yeah.
Man, you preaching right now. 'Cause it's like, but you hit on a lot of important points. You know, emotional. That's what's happening in today's society. You know, and in our groups and in our communities, where
Or
like
circles, all
circle,
that.
yeah, because it's like it's okay to be emotional. It's a part of being human. It's
Yeah,
inevitable.
you have to.
But you have to. But then you said it again. The next point that you covered was like, later on I'm gonna realize, man, I messed up and I came at him heated and you know, defensive and emotional. So
If you're mature.
yeah, exactly, and that's what it takes, maturity, right? But it's like some people I'm encountering just feel like, no, like this is the only way, and you know, in no situation letting your emotions win is going to be a positive outcome, right? Or result. So I think it's important to recognize that, to be, because the bigger person is to know, like, you know what, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Come and approach you and say, hey, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How can we meet in the middle?
Yeah, of course.
Simple, right?
Well, also
Beautiful.
avoiding all white or black statements. Like, this is the only way, or this, you know, again, it's only ever going to be black and white. People don't allow a lot of times for gray area, and there's definitely that most of the time we live in this gray area, right? And so again, most facets of our life live in this gray area. And so again, just being like, again, when I have statements, when I am conversing with people, if I hear an all or black statement, right, where it's all white or black, where there is no room for wiggle room, I'm kind of already out. Like, you know, if you're not even allowing for me to make space for myself in your statement, then like there's no point in having the conversation.
To keep going,
right? To keep going. And
most
again,
definitely.
I mean, emotion. I'm gonna say it, right? I'm a woman. I'm emotional.
Yeah, of course,
I'm emotional. Probably on any given day, at least 60 to 70%. Those are my own stats.
Amen.
And emotions
real.
aren't wrong, right? I think emotions let you be true to yourself. This didn't feel right. That doesn't mean that, like, you know, you're wrong. It just means that it encroached on boundaries that I had, right? So just being aware of, like, your own emotions and, like, what is this telling me? Is it telling me that, you know, I'm hurt by this? Did you hurt me, or was I feeling some type of way about this before I even came in?
Already, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so again, but that's a lot I just don't think people under 30 have that.
Right.
You don't.
Yeah,
You're living high off of
YOLO.
life, right?
It's
Yeah,
YOLO
yeah.
lifestyle.
But
Which
is
is
that
fine,
is
yeah.
that what makes that correct? Like, obviously, some people don't know or don't have the knowledge or education or understanding of that, or is it taught? Is it taught, or is it self-inflicted to where, like, the world has treated me poorly, I'm gonna become this way, and I'm getting bitter, and, you know, it's a blind way of walking, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of times, again, it could be age, right? It could be like you don't know what you don't know. I mean, you have to be aware that there's a lot of things out there in the world that you just don't know.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know very little. And so if you, like, go in with that mentality, a lot of times you can allow yourself to be a little bit more open. But, like, I'll say when I was younger, like, I felt like the world owed me, right? Like, I was bitter. I wanted to fight everyone. Everyone was wrong. And it took a lot of time for me to practice, right, learning the world doesn't owe you anything, right? Learning how to navigate relationships. And that's not my first instinct. And me and my husband talk about this all the time, because my instinct is not to be patient, right? My instinct is to like
React off the
buck
emotion.
up.
Yeah, I'm an Aries.
Yeah.
Woo!
Oh my God, you are.
Yeah.
Me too.
There you go. There you go. So I mean, like I mean, my instinct is
awesome.
there you go, third Aries.
Oh my God, it's fucking crazy.
Aries house, yeah. So I mean, I'm a fire sign. Like I instantly feel like I see red. Like people don't even realize. Some people don't know that. Like some people have never
it's
seen
bad.
red.
It's bad
Right?
once we see it.
But a lot of times, like it took a lot for me to say, hey, like this is not the way that I'm gonna resolve anything. As a matter of fact, it just makes me feel worse. And then we've talked about religion before. Where like again, one time I messed up pretty bad. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember feeling terrible about myself and like I was like, you know, God, why, if you knew me in the womb, right? That's biblical, right? If you knew me in the womb, why did you make me this way? Right?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, like me being this way could be used for good, right? Like I could be, you know, a fire sign for the right thing, right? Like I could see the red for the right thing. And it's just practice. It takes time. And it takes time to figure out who you are as a person. Because again, who I was, you know, when I was before 25, that wasn't even me. Like I tell myself, like my frontal cortex wasn't even fully developed. Who I was as a person before the age of 25, that was just a growing person, right? We say that adults are 18. I don't believe that. A lot of times, like I see, because I also have younger siblings, right? I have, I'm the oldest, and like my siblings my youngest sister is like 19.
Oh,
Ooh,
wow.
don't let her see this. She's 19.
That's that age too, you know, because that's the hardest part of life.
And I tell them all the time, like what you believe now is not what you're gonna believe later. Like, and it's not wrong. It's just helping you be the person that you're gonna be, right? And even we've had this conversation before too, like who I was as an adult before being a mother, completely different person of who I am after being a mother. Right?
Same as a father.
Yeah, and so those things, I mean, those alter your being. They alter your chemistry, right? They alter, motivation,
your ethics
right?
too.
Yeah,
Because
your morality.
now you're responsible for little humans.
Yep.
Yeah,
You
most
know?
definitely.
And so it definitely alters the way you think. So again, I don't think there's one thing in particular that can really describe why a person's view changes or why they feel bitter really early on, right? And I don't know if I'll ever feel bitter again, right? There might be something that happens, later on in my life that will really turn me sour, and that's something that you can't predict, and you just have to, again, like we've talked about faith and stuff, and I just have to put my 10 toes down and be like, look, like we believe that everything's gonna be okay. We live by faith. Boom. Right.
Trust.
But,
trust is the big part of that. But when you mention like, okay, you ask God, why did you put that in me? He did it for a reason. Like he doesn't make mistakes. And he needs you that way. And I feel the same way. Because I'm a Scorpio. I'm a water sign. One of the few. But I also have that fire in me.
Aren't those the highest serial killers?
Right?
That's what I heard.
Sagittarius.
Dude, so like, but you also mentioned passion earlier. But it's like, that's what the world is. The world is about balance, and that's why maybe you and your husband are a match, because there is a balance, and everybody has bump heads, or everybody has disagreements, but it's about how we can meet in the middle, about how we can find that gray area, right?
Yeah.
So I think, again, like as humans, we're obligated to improve, to grow, and to help one another, because it's like what I miss, you can help me with, like, and vice versa.
I think we touched on something that I feel, again, as just a realist, and seeing what I've just been experiencing as a human within the past 15 years is, we talked about lack of compassion and all that, but I think it all derives from just not having any faith in something, whether it's God, whether it's science,
good vibes,
and even though I don't believe in like the Scientology stuff, if you're anchored in something just that's bigger than you, 9 times out of 10, you're just not going to be a shithead. Yeah. And you're not going to be super angry at stuff. And I think that's where faith comes in, whether you're Christian, Muslim, whatever you want. I happen to be Catholic, but seeing what we're seeing right now is a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people just getting angry about something that they don't even know a lot about. Because I notice in my tattoo chair, I tattoo all types of people. and they'll tell me like, man, can you believe this happened, or can you believe that happened? I'm like, and I know what they're talking about, but I'm just always genuinely curious on well, where are they coming from, and I'll ask them like, well, what happened? And 9 times out of 10 they're like, well, I'm not really sure.
But they say.
But then I know it's like, oh, they read a headline or they saw a quick 10-minute or 10-second clip and then completely formed an ideology, an opinion on something. They don't even have 2 sides of the story, not even 3 sides of the story. And, you know, I think that becomes a tool of dark forces to be like, oh, look, we have an easy mind to manipulate and create whatever we want. And that's where communism comes back. Marxism, because they teach these people how to incite a social revolution. They literally go to school about this stuff. Marx teaches this stuff, and we're not realizing like it's in front of us right now. And that's where I think the faith needs to come back. And again, I'm not trying to be religious because I'm my own religious person, but I don't want to be like, I'm not a missionary. I'm not perfect at all. Like, don't look at me.
You can still be a missionary.
But you're okay to encourage it, you know? Because it's like, man, we're not encouraging any specific lane, but just follow something. Like, find something that fits with you. Because we do have intuition, you know? We do receive messages from the universe, from God, from the spirit world, whatever you want to call it. And if you sit in silence, if you be still, like you'll get the right direction, you know, or you get at least a little hint.
Be still.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's crazy because like recently I've been getting a lot closer to God, you know, and I think for a reason too, because like you see the darkness, like it's overwhelming now, you know, and I hate to say that, oh, it seems like the darkness is winning, but it's like in the platform that we occupy, it seems like it is, you know, in this world.
In the social media platforms,
It's scary, you know, but my faith in God is stronger than that, so I try to not use fear, though I can't. It's inevitable. I do fear, you know, I do worry, I do overthink, but I do try to push more towards my faith and towards my belief, like, man, like God will prevail. The truth will set you free. The truth will protect you, you know, whether, or you know, there's always 2 sides, your story, my story, and then the right way, you know, and I think if we stand up for what's right, that alone is a shield.
Yeah, most definitely.
You know?
And I agree with you on that one. You know, well, the kind of job that I have, you know, I, you know, learned how to not react on emotions because reacting on emotions doesn't take you far. So I learned how to, you know, understand and acknowledge people's emotions before I speak. I came to learn that as well. I came how to be patient. Keyword, patient. Exactly.
It's a learned skill.
Yeah, it is a learning skill. Took me a couple years. But you know, and like learning how to like, so in my kind of field, I work for a personal injury law firm. You know, I'm like, I have to have a clear mind of anything or whatever's going on. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of our clients are with us, or half of them are dead, or half of them are missing an arm or a leg. So I get to meet them at the worst point of their lives. So before anything, I have to prepare myself mentally, because I know that, you know, they are in desperate needs of help or trying to look for anything whatsoever or any kind of solution to it.
And when they feel like they're not getting it, they can lash out at anyone, even people trying to help them.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you on that one. You'll be surprised, you know, and you know, at the ending, I have to be able to understand where they're coming from, but at the ending, they have to be able to understand what this is a true raw truthness of it. You know, I'm not gonna be that person that's gonna sweet talk to you and let you know, like, in a way of, but you know, just being straightforward with. So, and you know, and not like at the same time, not being able to react with emotions and being able to like actually have a clear mind and be strong on that point of, because half of the time, you know, they'll start, you know, with their emotions, their cryness. So, you know, being able to put your emotions to the side and be able to, like, you know, if you're going to find a solution, we'll find something, you know. So it's like you being that hope for them. So it takes time, but, you know, and it's a lot of strong-minded stuff that has to go along, because, you know, you have to prepare yourself. have to be strong for others, and then at the same time, you still have to come back to yourself.
Yeah.
And then always, keeping that professional part at the office and being able to take your life to your home.
Yeah.
So being able to balance those type of lives is
it's hard. Yeah.
It's hard.
Not being able to think, like, clear your mind at home, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think, again, I take things home too, right?
Yeah.
And I have to realize I have to be at home for my husband and my son,
Yeah.
right? I cannot bring work home, because
Yeah.
if I bring work home, I'm not fully there with them, right?
Oh, for sure.
But it's hard because, I mean, you do want to be compassionate, and
yeah.
and
It's hard.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Trust me. And so I go running after work. I run 3 miles.
That's why I go to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
If people
It helps.
understood how much that helps.
Those
Yes.
endorphins.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it creates that balance
Yeah.
again. It creates
Yeah.
that, like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to face whatever comes. And it's like, you're forced to stay collected, and nobody really knows what you go through. And nobody knows, like, they put in the emotional side. It's a job on its own. It's a task on its own.
It is. And, I wake up early in the morning as well, go to the gym, and, get my mind ready for, like, what's to be expected, and just think of, of client friends that we became friends along the years, how they had suffered and how they wish they had an arm, how they wish they could have done this. So that's when I rep for that extra push and just go hard at it even harder. Or even that's why at times I just push myself more than, because I know somebody out there is not able to. If I'm able to, I'm like, why am I whining?
Yeah.
Period.
What's my excuse
Yes.
when I have 2 arms?
Exactly.
Man, that's powerful.
Yeah. I'm like, there's no excuse for me. And I go running after work because I need to be able to think outside the box.
Yeah, de-stress.
Yes. So I'm like, I'm literally running and I forget that I'm even running.
Yeah.
It's like I just go into tunnel and just like,
Good.
yeah.
Good for you.
That's
'cause
good
I
for
can't do
self-care,
that.
yeah. I actually feel like, you'll see me run into the gym, and, like, even if I get 20 minutes in,
Yeah.
I'll be like, I need to get my 20 minutes. I need to at least lift something for like 15 minutes, even though I don't get a full workout. Like, I have to check it off the box, because if I don't, I have a terrible day.
Everything else
Right.
suffers
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just showing up sometimes, because once you're there, man, it'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
You know what to
Sometimes
do.
you have your best workout when you thought you were
Yeah.
so tired.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I can't do it today. And then, what?
And then an hour in, you're like, you know what? This is
Yeah.
a great sesh.
Yeah.
And then
I
you're like
feel-
breathing all heavy and you feel
Yeah.
great. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, solid.
They're like, man, what was I even complaining for?
But
Well,
those,
I know. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, dude.
I know our conversation that sparked the invitation to the podcast was insurance and stuff. I know you work with a dentist, or you're a dentist, right?
Yeah, so I'm a dentist. I practice out in East Downtown. So I grew up and was born and raised in Second Ward, Houston.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So that's an area, East Downtown,
Southeast.
Edo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Edo is actively being gentrified. So, like,
Yeah.
I get the best of both worlds. I get my raspa stands, but I also get my wine bars. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting solid right
Perfect.
It's nice
Yeah,
over there.
yeah.
It's changed so much. It
Yeah.
really has. I love it.
now. So, yeah, I have my practice out there, and we've gotten into, like, discussions before, again, around insurance, I think, especially because, man, I was obsessed with the Luigi situation.
Yeah.
Obsessed with it.
Here we go.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
This
no.
is it. Yeah, let's go.
And I mean, not for any particular reason, but again, like, when I was in undergrad, I studied medical anthropology. So it's basically the study of culture around medicine, right?
Oh,
And, like, how medicine, cultural impacts in different areas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, you're more likely to trust someone that's your same race. It just is. It's like
Yeah.
human nature, right? Someone that you see yourself in, someone that speaks your own language. I mean, just imagine going to a healthcare professional that doesn't speak your language.
Right.
And you're
Right.
just going based off, they're the white coat, they know, right? And then you feel some type of way about it when things don't go your way. Because if there's no trust there, right? Or if you felt like there was something that was miscommunicated to you, you feel, if you don't feel misunderstood or unheard, right?
Yeah,
So a lot of
so-
times, like, again, just in itself, those little facts, I think, help me be a better provider in general. So I love, again, studying, like, the culture of the medical practices here in the U.S. Man, it's crazy. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
And so I was obsessed with the Luigi case because, you know, it was someone who is affluent, right? Went to a private school, makes, you know, family had money, and still felt unheard, unseen, and like they didn't take care of him, right? Which
it was a back or some type of surgery he had.
Yeah, I think he was also frustrated because, again, from what I heard, his mom also had issues. He had issues. We know that untimely treatment can cause, you know, worse outcomes, worse prognosis.
Compound issues
Compound
that could have
issues
been
later
taken care
on.
of earlier, yeah.
And so, everyone that I got in the chair, every one of my patients that came in for that week, I was like, hey, so you've been keeping up with this? And again, I got a lot of feedback, right? And like, what felt nice to me is knowing that the masses knew that it wasn't necessarily providers that were causing issues for them, right? Mm-hmm. That it was insurance companies. Now, I live off insurance companies, so I won't say anything too bad about them because I mean, that's how I get paid, right? I get paid by insurance, filing claims and getting the claims paid. But it is a beast. Like, the way that it's set up is just, I don't know. We don't know how to fix it. I did not, you know, have a insurance 101 class in dental school saying, hey, like, this is the way insurance is going to work.
Yeah,
right?
no, they never teach you that, of course.
So you go in, you know, you graduate and you're like, all right, let's go, you know, practice and stuff. And you realize, you know, now I don't just have to abide by the rules that I set for myself on how to be a good provider, but now I also have to abide by the rules set forth by the insurance, right? In order to get claims paid. And again, so you just have to learn to navigate how the insurance works, and it's hard. So I personally don't know all the insurance rules sometimes because there's just too much, and they switch the rules every year. So we, as providers, if you've ever been to, you know, PCP, your specialist, the OB-GYN, like anytime you've gone to a doctor, they have someone in their office that just does that. That's their one job. So now as a provider, you also have to pay out a resource to help patients get claims paid, right?
Yeah.
So they're constantly, now you have just a third party even within your office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just
The
strictly
resource
deals with
just
that.
strictly does insurance, strictly tries to get stuff paid. And again, like I said, it's difficult for me to sometimes see like what the right answer is because, you know, dental insurance and medical insurance work completely different, right?
Yeah.
So dental insurance, like you have like a system where the insurance pays that first portion and then like whatever is left over you have to pay. So like the patient has to pay. So let's say your out of max benefit is $1,000 or $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. The insurance is only on hook for that. If you need anything past that, you got to come up with it on your own.
Out of pocket,
Right? Yeah. Versus medical insurance is the opposite. You pay your deductible for the year, they get everything else. Right? Mm-hmm. So they work a little different, and even just knowing that for the patients is, you know, a little bit easier for them to tolerate. Like, hey, this is why I owe this much. This is why my copay is this. This is why this isn't covered. This is why blah, blah, blah. And someone has to sit there and explain that to them.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know,
even when you're hearing it, you're like,
even that
it's hard to understand, right?
It is,
And so sometimes I don't even try to explain it because I put my foot in my mouth. Like my treatment plan coordinator is like, no, that was last year, right? Like that's not the rule for this year.
Yeah, like.
So I'm like, oh man. So again, right now I'm going through that because it's the beginning of the year, 2025. So I'm like, I don't know what the rules are for this year. I'm just gonna let my treatment plan coordinator figure that out. But on the opposite side, so I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease when I was 12. So like at the age of 12, I was diagnosed with psoriasis. It's not a big deal. It's just like skin stuff, right? But obviously like later on in life, I could develop more autoimmune diseases. So I'm already off the bat, like I use up my insurance, my medical insurance pretty well.
okay.
So like I've always, since I started working, have paid high plan all the time. Knowing that I'm going to use up all my insurance every single year. So like my medication that I use a biologic, so it suppresses my immune system. The biologic costs the insurance like $100,000 a year.
Oh, shit.
So I need insurance. So like when you have insurance, I wouldn't say necessarily that it's you're gambling, right? You're gambling that you're going to need it, and they're gambling you're not going to need it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? And as long as they don't find a loophole, right?
The
And so that's the
loopholes.
thing, finding the loopholes.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, knowing what insurance is, it's a gamble. Like, you're gambling that you're going to, but they're hedging their bets, right? So they hedge their bets. A lot of times they'll say, well, this person is more likely. So now that I have an autoimmune disease, my disability insurance is so high. It's so high
because they know there's a chance you're
it's a
going to
very
need
high
it.
chance.
there's a higher chance I'm going to need it. So they they hedge their bets, right? Where they basically say, well, you're more likely to need it. So now you have to pay a huge premium. And so, like, my counterpart, let's say, you know, my colleague next door, they're paying for disability insurance at a fraction of the price that I'm paying for it. And their benefit is lifetime benefit, whereas my benefit is only 10-year benefit. So God forbid something happens to, like, my hand, like, let's say nothing related to my psoriasis, right? God forbid something happens to my hand and I need the disability insurance, right?
Yeah.
Now it's only going to pay for a 10-year benefit, right? So that's always like a fear in the back of my mind because I don't get the same, I guess, the same benefit that everyone else does. Kind of like what happened in California. So, right, home insurance, they dropped
crazy.
They dropped fires.
That's a wild one.
But it's also because, again,
because they understood the risk.
Insurance pays someone to look at all the data.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right? Because it's a business.
True.
So they pay someone to look at all the data and they say, okay, this is a high risk. We're not going to cover this anymore. So they dropped it and they couldn't find fire insurance. And then guess what? Fire happened. Right? And so in Southeast Texas, home insurance is on the rise, or you're starting to have insurances get out of Southeast Texas, just like they're getting out of Florida, which is scary for me because I just invested in a home in Houston.
Yeah.
So again, there's just so many factors that play into like the way that insurance works, right? Again, I'm a high risk in general, so I pay a premium for medical insurance, for, again, disability insurance, for all my insurance, like even my life insurance, right? Because I'm heavily insured. Like when I say I have insurance for everything, I am, but I also know, I look at it from the risk standpoint, right? What is the risk? What is my risk? If, you know, I, God forbid, die tomorrow, what am I leaving my son, right? My son also needs a lot of insurance, so like medical insurance. So the insurance on him last year paid $166,000. So just for my family, medical insurance paid out for my family last year probably around $250,000.
Yeah, $250. Yeah.
So we won.
Yeah.
On that point, right?
Right.
Because
it was well worth
the
investment
of me putting in, right?
Like it did
my
what it's
high
supposed
plan.
to do.
Now, do I lose? Not lose, but do I pay a lot of money on, you know, the car insurance, medical, home insurance, and all my other insurances? Yeah, probably. Disability insurance, life insurance, because again of either my autoimmune or, like I said, in Houston, home insurance is going up because of the risk, right? And so it's a little scary because I'll always ask the number. So like I asked my agent, I was like, when I got my home insurance letter saying that there was going to be an increase, I said, hey, what's that percentage increase? Like, do the math for me. Like, what's the percentage increase? 18%. That's over the rate of inflation, dude.
Oh, I know.
Ridiculous.
18% increase is over the rate of inflation.
My property taxes went up 200% in 1 year because somebody overpaid for a property. This is like, how is that legal?
How's that possible?
And so again, those are all micro factors that, you know, lead to like bigger problems, right? In the sense of like, what sets the price, right? And so again, like for example, with homes, right? Home insurance going up, right? The cost of living in a home going up, because why? You know, is it climate change? We've had really crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
We've had really crazy, like, I guess weather, right? Natural disasters and weather, right? How much of it is it like the way that builders are building, developments happening, right? Are they not developing the way that we should be developing, right? How are they building the houses? Are we putting too much concrete, right? And again, those are not areas that I'm an expert on at
Right.
all.
Right.
Like, I'm not a developer.
Right.
I don't know what the guidelines are for that. I don't know if it's a plumbing issue. Why are we getting more floods? I've lived in Houston my whole life, and I don't remember us having floods like this when I was growing up.
Back to back.
We had one major flood, and that was Tropical Storm Allison.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, one.
Yep. That was the only one I remember.
Horrible.
And then since
What I think
since Harvey, it's been like
weird
every other year.
It's weird because there's people that argue this back and forth all the time, and I listen to both arguments. One argument is that the climate's changing, that the axis of the Earth has tilted,
And then that is a natural way that
and it's just a natural form of because we forget we're just a bleep in the Earth's existence. So sure, it could be. I don't think we should be polluting. Like we shouldn't have a fucking plastic island, which is fucked up, right? But at the same time, like that still doesn't point to it's your carbon emissions from your cars, or it's the cows farting too much.
Yeah.
So
we do like
cows.
meat.
Right? And we need them. We need a lot
and
of
meat's
cows.
good for us.
Yeah.
Red meat's good for us, and plants are good for us. You can go on the vegan side, like, well, just eat plants. Like, well, plants, have feelings too.
Yeah.
They've been known to be able to communicate to each other, like music, and grow differently. There was a farmer that he played classical music for his crops, and they grew bigger than ever, and he didn't do any fertilizer or like extra stuff like that. So any argument, there's a counter argument.
Yeah.
My whole thing is like, and this is what one scientist was saying, is like, we don't realize our population has grown so much. So these natural disasters, before, when there was extra land, the water just leveled out. But now that we're structured so much on top of each other, now the water has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then we have cloud seeding now, where the governments have literally created technology to create new clouds and pretty much rain droughted areas. And I'm not one to ever trust the government, so I'm one to think like, okay, they could be possibly adding clouds when we don't need them. There's scientists that go into eyes of hurricanes and see if they can manipulate the direction of the hurricane to move away from the coast.
Yeah.
But that's easily, like every movie, like yes, my project is to make this new human out of dead body parts, but
And then it goes really wrong.
What could
go wrong? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where we're at today as in scientists, because they have this claim, like 96% of scientists agree climate change is real. But that's just a part of the truth of what they all agree. They agree that the temperature is changing, but they don't all agree why.
Why? Yeah.
And then when you get into the money and the politics of who's paying for these studies, then it gets all convoluted.
Yeah.
Because there's all types of factors that make sense to me. Like one is where they get the temperature. It's now formed around concrete. Before, when they grabbed those temperature meters, it was in an open field. Now it's an urban area, so there's houses everywhere, there's concrete everywhere, there's people, there's cars driving. So it's hard to get some type of baseline read of.
But it could
of
also
what
be
we're changing.
multifaceted, right? It doesn't mean that it could be that all these people are right, and it's all playing a factor, right? And so again, like, what drives the price of eggs, right? It's not just the chickens, right, that you're farming. It's the transportation. Everyone wants a piece of the pie, right? Everyone wants, again, like, to make money, right? It's how are you making money? How are you protecting your investment? Because I'm sure the people who are inventing ways to make hurricanes change course is not because I just want to mess with the hurricane. It's because they're trying to prevent billions of dollars of damage, right? And so again, everyone's trying to protect their investment. Everyone's trying to make money, and so again, a lot of it is just like protecting your assets. But again, how do you make money and protect things that are already there, or the resources that you already have, right? And so again, that's what's hard, because even like the what I tell my patients sometimes, I'm like, you're not just paying for like my time, but you're paying for the time of all my employees, of the staff, of the overhead. It's not cheap, renting out in East downtown, right? It's for convenience. Yes, you could probably find a cheaper price outside of Beltway 8, right?
Right.
Because Beltway 8, is going to have less of an overhead in some of these locations. Exactly, the real estate is not as high, right? So you're paying for convenience, being able to walk here. A lot of times it can also be just, again, everyone wants a piece of the pie. So all the vendors, you know, they don't want to make a loss. So guess who they give the price to? Me, right?
Oh, for sure.
And so if I don't want to have a loss, I have to
Pass it along
to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so where do you kind of stop? Who regulates that? And again, it's hard because I don't want to be regulated, and no one wants to be regulated.
Right.
But also, like, I understand that patients can't afford their dental care.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, where
Nobody's, at a certain point, somebody seems like they're being selfish and taking, but a lot of times you're just like, I gotta save my ass too.
Yeah, like
I go through it too, with having to raise my prices over these past few years with inflation and groceries and gas, and I feel bad because I already felt like I had charged a fair charge, hourly charge, and it was within, you know, the industry standards. But now it's just like, well, fuck, I hurt myself by not raising my prices, and now my family got hurt by it.
Yeah.
You know, we're behind because, you know, I was trying to just do the right thing and, you know, felt what I felt was fair, but the rest of the world was like, well, we don't give a shit. Like, we're going to stop supply chains. We're going to make people, you know, force people to have to get a vaccine. That's going to stop everything from going the way it was already going. Now everything's gone up, and fuck.
Yeah, like it's hard.
Yeah, it's just
because everything has a chain reaction to itself.
Yeah,
and you know,
most definitely.
We don't realize it. When I say we, I mean consumers, people who don't have their own businesses, don't realize what it takes to run a business, what it takes to pay for the overhead, your employees, even just getting new equipment, like.
Yeah. No, it's really hard because, like, you want to be fair, right?
Yeah.
What is fair? Like, I've gotten a bad review over $20, and I was like, man, I would have if I would have known I was gonna get a bad review over the $20. I don't need the $20 that bad.
Yeah.
I didn't assume that you were gonna feel some type of way about the $20. Your insurance didn't pay it. Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Eat the cost, right?
Right.
And so again, like, people expect you as a business to eat the cost, but I'm like, I can't keep eating the cost and still stay in business.
Right. And still pay my people what they deserve and still provide the service that I want to provide for you. Now you're going to make me crabby. Because now every time you're going to look for the discount. And, you know, I realized that too was when, you know, I started nickel and diming myself, the clientele starts to be nickel and dimers. So you almost have to start to become this premium product when my intention is, what I love about tattooing is like tattoo all types of different people. Yeah. Just like you're talking about Anita.
Man, I love it.
Yeah, you get everyone. And I love that about this job because I get to hear all these beautiful life stories and crazy fucking hood stories or these millionaire, lifestyles that people created for themselves. And it's inspiring because I think that's why I love talking to people so much is because we are all so different. Yeah. You know, people may think this dude who has this family that has all this money, they have it all, but they don't realize that they came from a halfway house. Yeah, someone had to work really hard to get there. And you just never, again, you don't know without asking, right? People just always make like assumptions and they're rich.
I always feel like that's the favorite part of like my day a lot of times, and is when I meet a new patient, the first thing I ask is, who are you? Tell me a little about yourself. And they're like, oh, well, I went to the dentist. And I was like, no, who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing? What's your hobbies? And like, again,
I don't get with them.
Yeah, I don't get paid to do that, right? Like, I don't get paid to be, but again, like, it helps me be a better provider to you. It helps me, one, build trust with you. We're gonna chop it up about
like you're not
about
just
your
a number,
teeth and about your teeth in just a second, right? But don't worry, we're gonna get to them. Yeah, that's why you're here.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, but like a lot of times, again, just like getting to meet. I tell people all the time, like I'm like, if I won the Powerball tomorrow, like I would still probably come and just talk to people. I would just have someone else doing the work. Because it's like, I see you hunched over, automatically making my back hurt, man. Yes. Because I work the same way.
You know
right?
what it is.
We sit here like this, and I'm like, man, this shoulder is hurting. Yeah. Right? Definitely.
And I would miss that.
Thing, yeah, people miss
people don't see that, so it's like they don't consider that when they're worried about their $20. Yeah. You know, that it becomes a personal thing where it's like, man, this is just the consequences, and they don't see that. It becomes like, oh, I'm the only one that matters. Yeah. This is only happening to me, as opposed to thinking like, damn, this is what they go through all the time. How many people are like stress you out. How many
Yeah,
people,
oh my
test you?
I one time, when I was pregnant with my son, one time there was a patient that could not, he had just had like surgery in his neck and he couldn't go back more than this. So I had to, bend over and take out a tooth, like bent over, and I had to take a rest every 10 seconds and be like,
Yeah.
Wow.
and like I have literally bent my back backwards for patients, and sometimes it is not enough, right? And I have to tell myself sometimes there's patients that are going to appreciate and love you and respect you and take care of you and really see what you're trying to do, and there's going to be maybe like a 1 or 2 small percentage that won't, and it's okay, right?
They could recognize, and
most people do like recognize and love me, and it's great, and I live and thrive off of that. But yeah, definitely my favorite part is like sitting there and like, talking to patients. And like I said, if I didn't have to actually do treatment, just do it all day, educate all day, talk all day. Cause that's like my favorite part. Yeah. And I would just hire another dentist to do it.
But that's what connects you and what separates you from the rest, because genuinely care, genuine love, genuine like compassion for the patients and for a human, for another life, Right.
Not fun fact, but like morbid fact. So like dentists have like some of the highest suicide rates for white collar professions.
Why dentists?
White collar.
But you said dentist, right?
Yeah, so dentists have.
That's why I said why dentists out of all the.
Oh, so I didn't know either. Like I was like, I imagine.
Because I knew that about doctors in general, but not that it was more towards dentists.
I've heard that a lot of healthcare. Yeah, I don't know if it's like overburdened. I don't know, to be honest. I imagine that for dentists it might be chronic pain sometimes, right? Because like sometimes I've seen a lot of dentists have to leave the profession with like pretty significant spinal issues. So I would always thought maybe like a little bit of chronic pain, or just getting told every day you're hated. Like at least once a day, someone says, "I hate the dentist, man." I don't hate you, but I hate the dentist, and I'm like, okay, all right.
That's a fear-driven,
Yeah, no. It's crazy because now I think I get half and half. There's patients who are like, I don't know why people hate the dentist. I love the dentist. It's like self-care. It's like coming to get like a, like a facial, like, or getting my eyelashes done. I'm like, yeah.
Preventive maintenance.
Yeah.
No, trust me. I hated
Oh,
the dentist.
God damn it.
I hated the dentist.
Did you hear nothing?
I hated the dentist. I came to understanding if I'm here at the dentist it's because I need you. So I came to you like, hey man, it's always great going to a dentist. It's always great to see what everybody else is up to.
It's always the people who are inked too. Like I'm like, they're like, man, I hate needles, and I'm like,
look,
man, you are fully sleeved, dude. Like. They're like, it's different.
Like, yeah,
nerve
in a
pain
vaccine.
is different.
I'm like, oh my God, is that gonna hurt?
When you catch that nerve, you're like, ah. And then you can't talk. And then you can't talk with someone in your mouth.
No, I'm like, how do I answer?
Because that always happens. They're like, oh, how have you been?
It's also like, you really want to bad talk me? Like, I have the power to. Oh, oops.
I'm like, thumbs up.
Yeah, it's like our favorite. I always joke about it. I was like, so it's my favorite pastime. So how you been? And like, you really can't talk. You're like, oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, speaking on insurance, and I watched a whole podcast with Tucker Carlson and this guy named Brighton Bueller. Is it Brighton? Brigham Bueller. And he basically, he's an industry expert on insurance. He goes over the whole CEO, United Healthcare insurance scheme, what they were doing, how they were basically denying like 70% of the claims, and I took some snippets of some of the interview, but it opened my eyes up a lot, because same thing too. I was like, I know we're getting screwed, but I don't know who's screwing who, and how is it trickling down to us, the people who are paying on the insurance. So we can take a quick little view at this, and then speak on that.
They are not going to fight the insurance companies, because the insurance companies control everything. And so when we talk about corporate capture, you've got the big pharmaceutical companies that have captured the FDA. You've got the big insurance companies that have captured and colluded with FBI and DOJ, which I'll get into here in a second. They've also captured our hospital systems and our clinicians. There are no private primary care practices anymore. because insurance cut their reimbursements.
So that's one scheme of how he says, and maybe you can kind of stay out of that.
No, I mean, not necessarily. So again, like I said, I get paid by insurance.
Right.
And I also use insurance quite a bit. Again, like I said, but it's true. I think a lot of times, you know, everyone wants a piece of the pie, right? And it's kind of, you know, if you think about going in and doing, you know, let's say an emergency surgery, right? Everyone has to get paid, right? The anesthesiologist has to get paid. Their assistant, you know, the assistant nurses,
surgical team,
the surgical tech, right? The OR room, the hospital, for the supplies. So the supplies that went into it, the vendors, right? Everything that's sterilized is like a premium, right? So all those things I think play into it for sure. Now, I feel like a lot of providers are kind of left in the middle, right? Where, like, for example, me, sometimes I don't know what I'm getting paid for a procedure. Sometimes I'm getting paid $80 and sometimes I'm getting paid $400. Because when I sign up with an insurance, I'm agreeing to their price list. Right. And so sometimes I'm breaking even and sometimes I'm like, like, that was a lot. Should I be proud about that or should I not? Like, that was, it's difficult. And I think that, again, a lot of times, like, patients might think that we're gouging them, right? Because cash prices in the dental industry are higher than insurance prices. And they're higher because the insurance will pay us, you know, 60 to 80% of what like a cash price is. So our cash prices have to be high. Yeah. So again, a cash patient might feel some type of way about it, right? And so it almost forces the patient to seek dental insurance because it acts more like a big discount code or discount coupon for them, because now instead of paying, you know, the cash price, they're paying a negotiator price and they're only paying their portion of it. Right. So again, some providers, PCP and, you know, like dental providers are moving more to a concierge type of system where they take no insurance at all and the price is the same for everyone. And instead of you paying the insurance, you're paying them like a membership fee. So, and like that, everyone, it's fair.
That's actually what this guy is doing.
Yeah. And so again, concierge, medical and dental is like coming on the board, right? Because it's I guess a more fair way to do things. But then again, the patient ends up having to pay more out of pocket if you need work. So prevention is always the best, right? But if you need work, you end up having, again, to you know, pay a little bit more of a premium, but then you know that you're paying the same thing that everyone is paying.
But I think you spoke on my whole big gripe about not only just insurance, but just the medical industry, mainly more health as opposed to dental, is you know, the working backwards to move forward. And that's like getting healthy to begin with instead of having to go to the doctor all the fucking time. Because
I'm big on prevention, but it's hard.
Well, because it's a re-education. Like the medical way of thinking now is just like, let's cover up the boo-boo with the Band-Aid instead of like going backwards. Like what you're doing, talking to your patients, they could say stuff that you didn't even think of, and you're like, you know what, this is probably what's causing your issue.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time, right?
100%.
When I talk with my clients, they're like, well, I don't know I know what I want, but I don't know what I want. Well, come talk to me. Let's just have the consultation and, you know, let me pick your brain. And then boom, we have the perfect idea for them. It's not something I wanted for myself, but it's not my tattoo. Yeah. Like, you're not fixing yourself. They're the one with the issue. And I feel like the big issue with you know, big healthcare, big pharma, a lot of these doctors is the incentive to get paid and not so much the incentive to provide. And I think that's why I felt like there was a lot of suicides in doctors, because you're treating people for decades and they're still dying on you. To me, that's not a, you know, like if you're a mechanic and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna fix your car, but that they keep coming in every week like, bro, it's not fixed. Like, you're a shitty mechanic.
Yeah, and so that's why it's the biggest benefit for me to talk to my patients at the beginning is to be able to see what root causes are, right? Because if you keep coming to me for the same problem, you're going to keep blaming me.
Yeah.
Now, if you keep breaking your teeth and you're not wearing your night guard, now you know it's on you.
Right.
Like,
or you keep eating the candy.
Yeah. Like now we know it's on you. Right. So again, like you got to take responsibility for yourself too.
At some point,
a lot of times, again, that's difficult. Again, I have an autoimmune, so I have something in my body that's an inflammatory. It's causing an inflammatory response. Is it the food? Is it the food that we consume? Is it the products that we use? A lot of the products that we have allergens in it, toxins in it, right? Non-stick food, like, BPA,
the pans,
red dye, right? Things that are in all of our food products that, again, at 12, I'm eating what my family's buying.
Yep.
And it might not be the best quality food, like, again, we the food that I'm buying for my son now is not the food that I grew up on eating, you know what I mean?
Same.
So definitely, was it that? Was it, stress? There's so many things that can cause, I think, inflammatory responses in patients, and it affects their health, right? And so, like, in our household, we're slowly trying to get rid of a lot of, like, the allergen stuff. So we started cooking, like, on cast iron, right? We started cooking on stainless steel. We got rid of, like, all the nonstick stuff. And just, like, little things like that you wouldn't even think about.
Quit using plastic so much.
The cheapest things, the cheaper the item that is, the more likely I'm gonna say, like, hey, it probably has an allergen in it, right? And so like, even and like, honestly, if it was just me and my husband, we probably wouldn't even be looking into it. Is that my son has eczema and he's 4, and he can't. There's like very little things that we can do for him because he's 4, right? So like, what are the things that we can do? Changing the stuff that we're using in our household. Right. And so like, that's what made us go down the rabbit hole, not even our health, right? It was the health for our son.
That's the beauty of being a parent and having that, because the same thing for me, like, I hated politics. I never paid attention to it, but having a child and knowing I'm not going to be here for their future, it made me look like a little bit stronger into what's happening around us. And then that led me into food, that led me into big pharmaceuticals, that led me into, the CIA and the FBI and, and it just keeps leading you up higher and higher.
That's
and higher.
why I won't go down the rabbit hole too much. I'm like, I'll never come out. I'll be Alice lost in Wonderland.
Yeah,
a rabbit hole if it's factual, because it's like, if you don't know that Teflon is bad for you, like if you don't know that what you're cooking on is actually causing you more damage, then you don't know. You're blindly poisoning yourself, your kids. So it's like, they don't teach us this in science class.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Well, they do, but they don't relate it.
Yeah.
Well, you would never think, okay, why would we cook with something that's poisoning me, right? Like, a simple mind was not gonna think, like, that's not right. Why would they do that to us?
Yeah, that'd be dumb.
Why would they put this in the food, right? Like, and the stuff that actually destroys our teeth.
What was it? I heard that, like, what Fruit Loops said, that they wanted to keep the red dye in their food because American kids preferred the brighter colors.
Yeah.
That was crazy to me.
Like, who are you to say that?
You already have a better quality product because you have to make that product for a different country. Why not also distribute? Keep it domestic. Exactly. It's because it's going to cost you money, and that's where, again, my gripe is. Like, if you want the consumers. Like, we wouldn't even be going down the rabbit hole if they just did the right thing.
Right.
We wouldn't have a need to.
Exactly.
If we didn't have to, like, look and specifically say, hey, like, does this have, phthalates? Does this have paraben in it? Like, if we hadn't, been so exposed and so sickly, we wouldn't even have a reason to look into it.
Yeah.
But the fact that we are becoming more sickly, right? There's more, like I said, more eczema, more asthma, more issues.
More cancers, more ADHD, more ADD.
Metals in our body, like that stuff is like killing us.
People are just not curious. People are not wanting to question. People are just so comfortable. People rather just stay in that closed box of themselves. People do not.
Convenient.
It is convenient. Yeah. And again, like I said, it's harder to sit there and be like, now I've even like started changing out my makeup. So it's hard to do. I mean, it's hard to switch everything out in your home. Right. It is, because if not, you'd have to throw literally everything out.
I'm still going through it too.
And so you just like slowly, like even like new makeup that I'm buying, I'm making sure that it's like a safe like a skin, clean product. And it's hard because mascara is like $30. I don't know if y'all know that, guys, but mascara is like $30.
I haven't bought any in a while.
So
I stopped buying that.
Yeah.
No, but even like the fabric we wear,
Yeah.
it's starting to play a part in our health and affect us in
Yeah.
ways that we would never even imagine. But it's like, okay, if we willingly know this, why are we willingly continue to create it and to make it and then up the price 100%, 200%.
Well, that's how, because we don't question. We're just so close-minded. Even with TikTok went off for I don't know how many hours, and the whole nation went crazy.
Yeah.
Everyone went crazy. Everyone was wondering, what am I gonna do now? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna cook? How am I gonna do? I'm like, where am I gonna get recipes? What am I gonna do?
I don't know. I deleted it.
Some people.
Yeah. I never had it.
I never had it.
But dude, there's like people that were like teenagers that started making money, and now they don't have a skill.
Yeah.
If there's no TikTok, what are they gonna do?
It's sad. It's
Yeah.
really, really sad because the whole nation went crazy. Nobody knew what to do. Imagine from one app, everyone just life stopped.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how the impact of one app just impacted the whole nation.
And that's just where we're at in the future that we live in. That's where we're at, where people depend on this kind of stuff,
And
Yeah,
that's
it's
where
sad.
we're at. Ruffled Feathers is it's all a whole unit. It's not just like one cut. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And like you said, like I'm trying, like if you try to go back to ground zero, it's expensive, and it's expensive to eat healthy. It's not cheap to eat healthy. And my kids say, "Oh, you buy all the off-brand stuff." I was like, "No. This is the high-price shit."
Yeah.
No, it's
And
crazy.
it's less.
When we go to the grocery store, we buy food for like me and my husband, and then we buy food for our son.
Yeah.
We buy the Kroger brand milk, and our son gets Horizons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
$7 a half a gallon
Yeah,
milk. Like
exactly.
it's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so again, we give our son better products than we we already have all the health problems. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
But we're trying to like help prevent
We're
right?
all suffering together.
Well, so the CDC recently changed the development guidelines for children. So children are having more delays. And so our child has some cognitive delays, and he was what is it called? He goes to ABA therapy because he was diagnosed on the spectrum. And he's an awesome, bright kid. Like, he communicates in his own way. We absolutely adore him. But, like, how much of that is, like I said, inflammatory? And especially because it didn't just happen to him, right? There was like a huge increase all of a sudden. And it was supposedly, it was the kids couldn't see you talking because we were all wearing masks.
Yeah.
And so that's why they were having a lot of speech delays.
Wow.
But
Crazy,
it
right?
hasn't gone back down.
Right.
So like the CDC actually changed their guidelines.
But then it goes into RFK stuff, talking about the vaccine schedules for kids of getting like 16 vaccines by the time they're 6 months. Like even when my kid, like my youngest, I noticed there's like little like, man, why is she still doing that? But in my research mind, I'm like, fuck, like they've already found so many similarities and with the schedule and the amount of vaccines and the heavy metals and the toxins, and it's just like, fuck, did I do that to my kid? And it obviously you can't dwell on that, like, but at this point it's just like I have to be more informed than just run with the crowd, because that's always been my MO. It's like, if that's what you like to do, and that's what everybody else is doing, I'm not gonna go dance on TikTok to this cool song.
It's also like mandated, right? Like, I mean, you can't go to school if you don't have certain vaccines, or you can't go to school.
It is, but there's ways around it, but it's tough.
But
like
it
it's
makes
not
it
just
harder for you,
right.
You know? You have to go through all these obstacles.
Yeah, all these hoops.
For us, it was kind of like a personal choice in the sense of like we got our son. So my husband is a veteran, right? And like anytime he got deployed, they got vaccines for everything. Like
For sure.
Shout out to Zachary.
Yeah, Zachary. So he's like, man, he'd be like, I'd be so messed up right now if all those preservatives really did something to us, because we got vaccinated for everything under the sun every single time we got deployed,
During
right?
time of service?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's
And
crazy.
so
Because then you don't have a choice, really.
you don't,
No.
your property. Yeah, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So for us also though, like I am in healthcare, right? So I have a higher chance of bringing something home to my son, right? Because of all the aerosols from me using, the drill and stuff like that. And like healthcare professionals in general have a higher likelihood of developing hepatitis B because it lives 19 days on surfaces if you don't kill it correctly. So again, I was like, I'm not trying to bring hepatitis B back home to my kid. And if I do, at least it's vaccinated for it, right? So we, again, like I said, we just didn't want to run the risk, and we did vaccinate him on schedule. But I mean, like I said at the beginning, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know until the studies come out, until you get systemic reviews about it. And again, you do have to question, where is this coming from? Is this reliable?
Was this bought and paid for, or was this a true? Like, I want to make the world better.
So
because I don't, and that's what doesn't make me and my family, like, we're not vaccine deniers. Like, I still, same thing. Like the hep shots, I get them because of what I do. I've accidentally stabbed myself. I go get myself
needle
checked.
sticks are a thing. Yep.
And it's real. So, but 16 vaccines on a baby before their immune systems even started to fully develop, and some of these things, I'm just like, man, like, I don't.
So you do have to have some healthy skepticism, right? So like before, like there was a time that they said formula was better for your child than breast milk. We obviously know that is false. Like, the breast milk is definitely better for your kid. It gives your children a vaccination, a natural vaccination, immunity, right? So anything that so that's why you actually vaccinate mom too now. So you vaccinate mom so that you have those antigens for your child, or antibodies for child. So it is healthier to breastfeed. Now some people can't, right? So at that point, that's when formula comes in.
Right.
I don't think that should be the first choice, but again, at some point they said, no, give formula to your kids. That is better for them. And then again, that ended up being false. And again, we're only,
and who said that, right? Like,
as a provider, we're only as good as the study shows. So if someone comes and tells us, hey, this is, and again, I don't know if y'all watch the documentaries on like the opioid crisis.
Oh, I did.
But so the pharmaceutical company came and said, hey, this is perfectly safe. They told all the providers that. And only a few providers didn't fall for it, right? Yeah. Most started
prescribing it. Yeah.
Because you were told something. Yeah. And you thought at face value, this person is telling me the truth.
Because they're the ones who educated me. They're part of my ecosystem of education.
But when you take away the option or the choice, something's got to be wrong, right? Like, that raises a flag. If you take away the option of choosing, there's something wrong there.
No, definitely, yeah.
Or when it's like, oh no, this is the only way, and if you question it, you're the problem.
No, let's find a solution.
Yeah, I've never been, it's never been my personality type to just, you tell me something and to take that as the truth. Yeah. Especially if it doesn't make sense to me. I was, and my teachers hated me for it. Like, just listen to what I'm telling you. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense.
And sometimes there's no right answer. Like I said, it could be multifactorial. I live in the gray area. That's what I'm comfortable in. All black statements, all white statements, I'm usually like a no-go for, right? Again, there's definitely a lot that, like, we don't, like I said, know until we do. Or until someone does decide to study it, right? Or find the answers.
Or half of it was true, but you missed this other half that
was important.
That only made it true if this half happens.
Right.
And
and that's freedom. You have the right to question. You have the right to wait. Okay, wait a minute. Let me.
Like during COVID, like we couldn't openly communicate on what's happening with COVID, why other doctors were disagreeing with what the CDC and the WHO were saying. And those same doctors who went to the same schools got either demonetized or taken off the internet.
I feel like, okay, so disclaimer.
Go ahead.
I tell my patients all the time, you ask 10 different dentists, you're going to get 10 different answers. Because it's whatever works best in their hands, right? The way that you do your technique and tattoo is not the same way every tattoo artist is going to do it, right?
100%.
And so again, what works best in your hands is usually what you're recommending. Right. And so a lot of times you have people who tend to be more proactive about treatment. And then you have, providers who tend to be more reactive about treatment. So it just depends, again, like where you fall as a provider. Are you falling more on the proactive side, or are you falling more on the reactive side? Are you more conservative, or are you more aggressive?
Right.
And you have a spectrum of providers out there. So you definitely will have a
Differences
PCP,
of opinions,
right,
yeah.
who is definitely going to be more holistic, and you're going to have a PCP who's definitely more like, hey, pharmaceutical heavy, right? And it's not that it's not the right answer, it's just what works best in their hands. So when I see disagreements between like medical professionals, even like, again, on our Facebook groups, like on our mommy dental Facebook groups, or like our dental clinic, like we have like so many like Facebook groups for dentistry, and you see, oh man, you see it get hot sometimes in there too, just because again, you think that everyone's going to agree on what the right course of action is, and it's just not true. Right. There's just so many different factors. And so again, that they were disagreeing was not something new to me. I was like, of course they are. Like, let's just stand, because we are human, right? So the way that we perceive,
right and wrong, or
not even right or wrong. The way that we perceive is going to the way that we perceive what's going to give you the best outcome, better prognosis. That's what you're going to definitely, I feel like, recommend.
Kind of,
right?
speak up on. Yeah, but like I said, like I think that's natural and healthy.
Definitely.
But when people are saying, or there's an organization saying no because we know better on this novel virus that apparently nobody's known about and is brand new, we know the answer. And again, just that doesn't make sense. Mine was like, that doesn't make sense.
Viruses are known for one thing and one thing only. They are really shitty at copying their DNA. So they're always like evolving, right? Even within our own bodies, which is why, like, if you get the flu shot, you can still get the flu, right? And so that's the one thing that you know about viruses, is that they're always consistently evolving rapidly, because they are just really bad at copying their own DNA, like their own RNA, I should say.
And that's just kind of their thing, is to just keep
their genome,
keep alive.
Keep going.
Alive, keep going.
But, I mean, it's
like
part of our existence too. It's part of nature. Like, we're supposed to go through that, get immune to it, get exposed to it,
Yeah.
But, I mean, now there's a difference between treatment and cures.
True.
So, So the definitely, like, people who study viruses, and again, I'm not an expert at all, right? Knew that there was probably something novice that was going to come onto, onto the world, right? And so, because it was expected. Again, viruses are not very good at copying its own, genetic code. So, like, it makes sense that at some point it was going to hit us again, pretty significantly, right? Now, again, that's as far as I know.
Right.
I will say that at some point we're gonna start dying again from, like, what is called bacterial infections, because now we're getting a lot more bacteria that does not respond to antibiotics, because we overprescribe antibiotics, and we use antibiotics for everything. And our Hispanic community, who has, the amoxicillin they brought over from the border, and they sell it at the mart, and they give themselves, penicillin for like every little thing, and it's like, please don't do that. Don't do that. That is why we're gonna become resistant.
Even having the antibacterial everywhere. Now we're killing every virus.
It's healthy, I think, to have some. It's healthy to get sick a couple of times, let your body like just deal with it, right?
And eat some dirt.
It's like, I mean,
lick a boot.
Back in the day, we didn't have all this medicine and all this, like, pharmaceuticals, right? Because there's a difference between pharmaceuticals and, nutraceuticals, where it's like more of a holistic approach to, like, natural stuff that can actually prevent it or attack it from the root, right? Like to cure it. And I think big pharma, doesn't want cures. They want treatments. So it's like,
well, I think there's a split, right? There's people that are in it for the money, and people honestly they're trying to help people. And then it gets convoluted again, because it's like, well, not everyone's out there to try to, just make as much money as they can. But there are people making health, like treatments for, like, people on stage 4 cancer.
That actually work.
So that's it's hard to like, when we say these open statements, we're not trying to just bag on pharmaceuticals.
Of course.
Plants do work. Tylenol comes from a plant. So it was acetaminophen is like a synthetic version of like plants that were used for a long time to help reduce fevers. So like again, when I was an undergrad, I studied medical plants, and so things that come from actual plants. And there are programs that spent a lot of money going out to the Amazon and like untouched areas to look for new plants,
finding that stuff
that
again.
have chemical compounds that can help with certain diseases, curing certain things and stuff like that. Or again, I mean, penicillin isn't gonna cure you from the infection. It's just gonna help, right, kill some of that infection for you, and
your
like
immune or whatever,
your immune system can kind of help fight it off, right? So there are things that are not necessarily there to like cure you, but help you with the symptoms and mitigate some of those symptoms so that your body can do what it does, which is it wants to live, right? So like if you believe that the body works, right, and the body is meant to like help itself and cure itself and do, I mean, I've seen bodies do miraculous things, and we all have heard like people like magically survive, right, certain things. The body can heal itself. I mean, what's the guy's name who got, I was just thinking about him because we saw a movie with him, the guy who got ran over by the snowplow. What's his name? Brennan?
Oh.
The guy from the Marvel movie.
Yeah, he's an actor.
He's an actor.
Oh yeah.
From
and he survived.
Hawkeye or whatever. No?
Yes,
Hawkeye.
yes.
Yeah. He's I mean, like, again, miraculous. Like, he was able to heal. He is.
But he has a good diet too, right?
Jeremy Renner. Yeah.
He has like a good diet because like I've been reading a lot on cloves. Cloves can regulate like high blood pressure, all kinds of stuff.
What kind of cloves?
Cloves, like the clove. What is it?
Cloves. It's like little.
They look like little nails with the little bubble on top. Pull it up. Put a picture of cloves, Mickey, please.
And those are used in a lot of Eastern medicine and.
Yeah, Neri, my girlfriend, she's been doing some teas, and man, like it would relax me.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do it a certain way, but it's like, man, if you look into like what cloves, like the benefits of cloves, it can help a lot.
That's why I got them here.
Yeah. It helps with like gut digestion
and for
gut
just
health.
bad breath.
Bad breath.
It's not only for
because I mean, I think anesthesia used to be made out of cloves, right? Back in the day for dentists, they used to use it a lot.
Almost like mentha.
Mm-hmm.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, it has that same
strong.
effect of like clearing through.
But also
passages.
like cayenne pepper, like that's really good for like inflammation.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. We do a lot of cayenne pepper, and we'll randomly just eat garlic.
Yes.
My husband and I. I'll be like, is it? We'll do it together because garlic.
Yeah, my dad
will get us.
It's not on date night.
It's not on date night, no.
Like it's gonna be like you can't refrigerate garlic apparently. Like if you refrigerate garlic, it can grow a mold. Garlic and ginger.
We do, yeah.
Supposed
When
to
I
stay
was
outside
pregnant, I used to do just go to the sushi
garlic.
place and just do garlic all the time.
Yeah.
Not garlic, ginger. It would save me. Sometimes.
Ginger. It has good high on everything.
Yeah.
It helps with like nausea, I think too, and like it. I don't know, but it worked. When I was pregnant, it would save me sometimes.
That's awesome.
Even like apple cider vinegar, I use that a lot. When I have a stomach ache or a sore throat, take a shot of that.
Apple cider?
Yeah. I just
It
saw
helps your hair too. The apple cider vinegar, like you
Vinegar,
can do like little like it helps like your scalp and stuff. So it's really good for.
I was just looking at a video where it says cut up some red onion and a couple of cloves of garlic and pour honey in it and let the honey sit for like a day or two and then just pour the honey out. And it's supposed to be like an antibiotic type stuff. You know, honey and cinnamon is supposed to be like an antibiotic, natural antibiotic. So there's things that work, you know, because it's like also like overeating is bad for you, you know. So like you're not really supposed to eat. You eat to fuel, you know, and to like empower your body, you know, to like activate the natural whatever your body does, you know. Whether it's
but natural stuff can also hurt you, right?
I mean, I think
look at the opium poppy, right? Like,
yeah.
so if you do too much of that, so again,
it's
like
abuse.
everything, it's abuse. So again, everything I think natural stuff does work, and I think that again it helps your body kind of like regulate itself, but also anything that can come from nature can also hurt you. I mean, there's poisons out in nature, right? So again, just kind of everything, you know, you have to have like a healthy skepticism to it too. So
for sure,
I tell my patients all the time to do just warm salt water rinses, and they're like, warm salt water rinses. I was like, yep, your grandma was right. It's just saline.
Yeah.
If you go home and you look up, you know, how to make saline, saline's gonna help your body's pH.
Yeah.
It's gonna help, right?
Yeah.
So I always tell patients to do warm salt water rinses, and they almost kind of feel gypped because they're like, I came here so that you could prescribe me something, right?
Yeah.
I paid you $40 to tell me warm salt water rinses. Are you kidding me?
And
Like, so it almost forces providers to. I think that's honestly why sometimes providers overprescribe.
Yeah.
Because patients went with the expectation that you're gonna give them.
We
an
live in
RX.
America.
Right.
Yeah, we're the beacon of health, supposedly. And
and
yet we're not even close. And that's where I keep, always heading back to. It's like, man, we've been lied to too much. And
So we have the highest infant mortality rate for a first world country, right? We have some of the
highest obesity rates.
yeah. So we have
crazy.
a lot of I think medical issues in general that I don't even know. I wouldn't even know where to start, right? So I watched a long time ago when I was in medical anthropology. I watched the documentary called The Business of Being Born. Right, and it goes and it goes through like all the things that we use to medicalize like giving birth, right, and how it affects the health of the mother and the health of the child. And one of the things that when I got pregnant is I made my husband watch it. Like I was like, we're watching this together because
The documentary?
yeah, the documentary, so that he knew why I wanted to not get the epidural, why I wanted to push natural, and why I wanted to push on all fours instead of being like on my back. And I was like, if the hospital does not let us do this, we're gonna give birth at home, so be ready.
Wow.
Yeah. Thankfully, at the time, Texas Children did have a midwife program, and that's who like I went through. And like, I feel like even though there was a couple things that didn't go the way that I wanted them to go, for the most part, everything was like perfect.
As planned,
As planned. And again, if I had to do it again, I'd do it the same way. Like
That's awesome.
the high that I got after birthing, like after feeling all that pain, that like oxytocin, man, you can't. Oof.
Yeah, because I think the mother experienced a little DMT too, right, during birth.
That you have all these like immediate releases of just all your love hormones and all like your just everything.
And that's why the pain goes away immediately, right?
I honestly don't remember the pain.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
It's also
It was there, but
it's
now he's
the
gone.
grace of like, oh my God, he's here, he's good,
Yeah.
he's healthy.
Yeah.
Everything goes out the window. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that again, like I can remember things that I thought. So I'm not gonna say that the pain. I mean, there was obviously pain.
Yeah.
I remember being like, this is terrible. I can't do this. And Zach being like, yes, you can. And probably within the hour of the baby being born, and just like again, you block out that pain. I don't even remember it. And other moms that I've talked to that did it the same way are like, yeah, I don't remember the pain.
Yeah.
Like I remember what I was thinking, but I don't remember the actual pain. Yeah.
And it's more it's more so the memory. Like you went through pain, it's just remembering the pain is gone, or is like, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I just want to make sure I understood what you were saying.
So I don't remember the pain. I remember, like I said, what I was thinking, because like I was trying to get Zach to like put worship music on, and then I had one song, and I was like, man, put that shit off. Like I'm sorry, like this is not the time. Like I mean, I like to hear some good worship music, but right now I need to put some of my,
I need some Slipknot.
Yeah, I need a little bit of Pantera right now.
Yeah.
I need like, so, but yeah, like I know that I felt it, and I know what I was thinking when I was feeling it.
Okay.
And I remember feeling happy when they checked me again. Okay, they're like, you're good to push, because I was like, I can't take more. Like I can't take 5 hours of this.
Yeah.
I could take maybe like another, 30 minutes of this, but not more than that. And so I remember.
So how long was how long were you in labor?
It was quick.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So like, I think a lot of it is that I could feel where I needed to push, so I could bear down quick. So I remember it was probably my water broke at 7, like a little bit past 7:30, 7:40, and Roman was here probably at he was here at 9:05.
Oh wow.
So within like an hour and something. So the worst pain was probably what they call the quickening, which is where you go from 7 centimeters to like 10 centimeters, right? So that was probably like 10, 15 minutes of just like absolute agony.
Yeah.
Like I threw up. Like I was like, oh my God. But they say that also throwing up is normal, even if you weren't feeling pain, because your body's trying to like make, like you're having contractions. It's trying to like make space, trying to get everything out, right? And so I remember being like, man, I'm about to push, like, and everyone's like, no, you can't push. I'm like, no, like you don't understand. Like I can feel what's going on.
Yeah.
My body knows.
This is the time.
So you better figure it out.
Yeah.
And I remember them going, yeah, they came, they checked it, like, you're 9 centimeters, and I was like, you better check again. And like 2 minutes later, like, all right, you're 10 centimeters, let's go. And I think that giving birth on all fours was the best because I could just see the pillow, right? I could hear my nurse on this side, I could hear my husband on this side, and I couldn't see. There's like 10 people in that room. People don't realize, but there's like a ton of people in that room.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't.
It's wild.
I couldn't see, like I don't want to see any of them.
Holy fuck! Yeah.
Like why?
Yeah.
You're like trying to bear down, and like you see, you know, Julie over there talking to to Courtney.
Because it's just Tuesday for them.
What are we getting for lunch?
Yeah.
Where did they come with the Starbucks? Like, you know, I don't want to see them, right? So it was just me.
It's
and
your
the
experience.
Yeah. And again, so I also, a little disclaimer and background, I used to work in labor and delivery. I was a cord blood collector, so I've seen the process go before, so I know kind of like what to expect. I know why all the nurses are there. I know why the surgical tech is there. I know why there's 10 people in there, right? I just didn't want to see them.
Right.
So, and it worked for me, like I said, and I felt empowered, right? Like it was 3 contractions, 8 pushes, baby was out. And I got super excited because, so like on the second contraction, right, the 6th push, I could tell that he was crowning, and everyone got excited. They're like, oh my God. And then I felt the contraction stop, right? So then I stopped.
Yeah.
Because there's no point.
Yeah.
So like it actually feels so much better to push when during the contraction.
When your body's saying it's go time.
So then I stopped, and they're like, why did you stop? And I was like, well, the contraction stopped. And they're like, oh, okay. And so then as soon as I felt that next contractions go, I was like, all right, I'm not letting go until this baby's out.
Yeah.
Now I'm excited because I heard everyone else get excited. And so then I just like push, and yeah, I think like on the 8th push, he was out, and I was golden, and then you again just feel that release. I'm crying, Zach's crying, like we're having a really like awesome moment, and like I said, I think because of that, I just blocked out I don't remember the pain.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So again, but like I know so many moms don't have that experience, and again, a lot of it is how much of it is you're on the medical team's time.
Yeah.
How much are you on the hospital's time?
True.
Right? And again, the hospital is a business. Again, hospitals save lives.
Mm-hmm.
But also you have to go in there with like a healthy understanding that hospitals are businesses, right?
Yeah.
And you unfortunately kind of have to come to terms. So the midwife program at the Texas Children's Hospital is gone. Like they got rid of it. Yeah.
Damn.
And actually, Texas Children's Hospital also let go. They had a couple layoffs a couple months ago, so they're definitely restructuring. You can tell, right?
Oh no.
And so I'm not sure how much of it is insurance issues. I'm not sure how much of it. Again, if they're not getting paid, right? They can't have these awesome programs. They can't have the employees that they have. They have to make cuts somewhere.
True.
Right? So they had to let people go. And then again, one of those programs was the midwife program, which again, now that we're considering having our second one, now I'm trying to find a midwife program because I won't go back to I just won't do it, right?
Yeah, I don't blame you.
They have independent people that do it, right, or no?
They do.
Is that valid? Or?
It is. So also, because I have insurance, trying to get insurance to pay for it. So a lot of times it has to be like at a hospital instead of like a birthing center. I'm still like researching that. I know that I think what is it, Willowbrook Hospital or something like that has a midwife program, and they're doing really good, and they actually have like water birth tubs so that you can have that as well. So again, I think that that's pretty cool because you have to have a healthy balance.
Yeah.
I like the fact that I gave birth in a hospital in case things did go sideways.
Right.
I was already there, right?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna.
I think that's most people's fears, like not being there when something could go wrong.
Exactly, but also having the confidence in my body to know that my body knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like to know that it's gonna handle this birth. We're gonna get through it. We're gonna, people have been giving birth for years without medical intervention, right? So yes, it can be traumatic. It can be a scary experience, but again, having that anchor that we talked about, having like faith that again, my body was made to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was
It
the
literally
best of
was
both
made
worlds.
to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the best of both worlds, and I think again, like I said, because I had a really great experience doing it that way that first time, that's what I want for the second time, right? Having a midwife program in a hospital setting. But that's not what makes money.
So I guess the question, Anaí, when you have a little one, are you gonna go traditional or?
Oh no, I believe everything natural. At the end of the day, I'm like, everything has a side effect. My
Yeah.
mom had an epidural when I came into the world, and now I see her like suffering like years later when the temperature change and it's cold out there, and she's always working,
Yeah.
so she's never sitting down. And at times I see her like catching herself or catching her back. I'm like, damn, like, yeah. So, and plus it's next to his spine, so if I can prevent myself from certain situations and from anything just going haywire, I'm like, why even bother?
I mean, I think it's definitely a real personal choice. I don't judge, I don't judge women. I mean, there's so many, again, there's no right answer.
Yeah.
It's just whatever you're comfortable with, whatever's going to get you and baby through it safely, right?
Yeah.
And I think, again, it is a very personal choice. So I, again, feel like if you choose to get the epidural or you choose to have medical intervention, like, we don't know what the reasoning behind that is, right? What if, again, you brought up your mother. Most people follow their mother's experience, right? So my mom didn't have an epidural, and she was like, and I saw her give birth, again, because there's such a huge age gap, I saw her give birth to my youngest sister, right?
Oh, wow.
And so I was there for that birth, and I saw her, I mean, she's a G. So she got it handled, and I was like, all right, I guess
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So seeing that, I was like, I mean, this is how I'm going to do it too. So I think a lot of that also comes from like the way that your own family does it, or because something went wrong for your family or something went right for your family, that it makes you make the decision that you make.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we honestly didn't even consider that because it was just never presented as an option. And then, back then, you just always, and still to this day, you just assume the doctors are giving you the best and only option because this is where science has brought us, and then this is the understood reality of like this is where medicine is and this is what everyone's doing. So you just assume like, okay, well then this is the only way we should be doing this, and not that it's wrong, but just not having the options kind of in retrospect, you're like, well, fuck, like maybe we could have avoided some things like the epidural or the multiple vaccinations or. But again, we had premature babies. They were preemies, so we were in exactly where we wanted to be with making sure they were taken care of. So our births were like wild, and same thing. Like they're giving me all this information as soon as the baby's being born, and then like they're taking the baby away, and then and then I'm like, and they're like, you want to come with us, Dad? I'm like, yes, I'm coming with the baby, but like the shit's fucking crazy. It's
so
just,
having those discussions ahead of time are super. So that's why me and my husband had those discussions. I was like, if at any point they have to separate our child from us, you need to go with the baby.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I was like, definitely. I will be okay. Like I need those good vibes again. Like again, if you have any anchor, again, I'm Catholic. I have like faith-based anchor, but also I'm a big believer in like just good vibes, like energy, right? Having that energy, having that love being thrown at you. Like I need someone that is super committed to this baby, being by this baby at all times, right? And so we had those discussions really early on. And again, I just like to be more prepared. That's just my nature. I like to be more prepared. And that helps me make a better informed decision, right?
Yeah.
And again, as a provider who also tries to give people all their options and have them make the best choice for themselves, I want to have that for myself as well, right? And sometimes I know that not all providers are going to sit there and, especially in a situation like that, you don't have an hour to sit there and talk about informed consent.
Yes.
You have to make
Or you're in the right
decisions on
mind
the
to
fly.
make that decision.
Yeah,
you know?
you're not
Right.
To understand. You're like, I don't know what you're
Because that
saying.
situation's wild when they're like, oh, baby's not breathing
when
correctly.
things happen, when things happen, they happen fast. And so again, having those discussions really early on when you're in a right state of mind, again, and dads are so important during that time period, right? Because they're the biggest advocate for you and baby when you're not in your right mind, or
especially when you're drugged up on an epidural. And there's 18 bodies around you, and
and again, I wasn't, but I still my mind was somewhere else. Right. Like
you were on. Let me get this baby out. And do my job. And
instincts are
instincts are kicked in and stuff like that.
Adrenaline and all that.
Oh, so much adrenaline.
Like, I want to see the excitement. I want to see what everyone's so happy for.
Yeah.
And see, that's a beautiful thing, man. You know, reproducing and being exposed to a new way of life and a new way of thinking and a new way of like viewing life in general. You know, I mean, I personally don't have any kids, but I do have 4 older sisters. They're all, now my nephews and nieces are all in their 20s. One of them just turned 30, so it's kind of like I got to experience like parenthood in a way, through them. Yeah, through them. But it's also like, I worried. Some of them had sicknesses, some of them broke an arm, and I experienced that pain, and I could feel my sister's pain and the worry and all of that. So it's like I think that's a beautiful thing, and it's like that's why like we have to remember that human part of one another. Like, man, like we are delicate, we are sensitive creatures, and the world is dangerous, and like whatever you teach them, whatever you expose them to, you gotta remember the world's gonna teach them and expose them to something else, ugliness, a different side of viewing things, and that's where I believe faith comes in, because you gotta trust that God's gonna take care of them, gonna guide them in the right path and protect them. But
I agree. Good foundation takes far. For sure. Everything, naturally wise, medicine is phenomenal. I don't believe in medicine. If I can deal with the pain, why not? And like eventually, that's why we have a body immune system, because it's here to fight certain situations and for it to get better along the way. So if I can, prevent myself from everything pretty much, why not? But it doesn't mean that, if I get the flu, I'm not going to take the flu medicine. Of course, I'll take a scope of that, But at the end of the day, naturally wise, everything else, because like I mentioned, my mom, just seeing her with epidural pain, and years later, which I'm going to be 33 in April. And just seeing her deal with that, I'm like, geez, thank you for life, but fuck,
I'm not doing that.
And then that goes into another subject. Like, man, parents are always still learning too. We as kids, we think that they know everything, and that they're like, but they still make errors. They still learn. Like that's a whole other part of life and existence on its own. But obviously, a parent's always going to choose their kids first, and they'll put their struggles and sacrifices to the side to make sure that you're okay, and then that goes back to like society, like we can do that even if we're not related, even if we're not, just human compassion and courtesy,
I mean, that's what's a little scary right now too. I think that people are making less allowances for children, right? In the sense of like, now you get on social media and if like you have a crying kid on an airplane, people lose their mind, right?
Start recording
or talk about, triggering society, like people get triggered, or they just don't have the tolerance for children, I feel like, the way that they used to. And so like I won't travel without my husband, because I'm afraid someone's going to tell me something about my kid, right? And I'm not going to respond very well.
You're going to speak your mind.
I'm probably not the one to be there
Yeah.
when that
My
shit
husband's
happens.
cool, calm, and collected, but also my husband's big, right?
Yeah.
It's a scary looking dude.
He's
He
so-
looks like, and I didn't know he was military.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
but,
I just don't see people saying anything to him, right? Like, and if they do, they're gonna mince their words a little. Like, you know what I mean? They're gonna
think twice about how they
how they're gonna approach it,
yeah.
right? You know. So again, I think that a lot of times, so when we go places, again, because my kid's on like the spectrum, and I almost get a little bit. I don't try to helicopter. I try to let him experience, but sometimes because he doesn't talk, he can't play well with it. He wants to play with kids, but kids don't want to necessarily play with him, and I just kind of let him.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, I kind of let
From
him.
your perspective, that's hard.
Yeah. So you just gotta like watch, right? Because you can't like
can't do it for
interfere.
him.
Yeah, you can't do it for him.
Yeah.
And so again, sometimes having
How old
Zach
is he?
be there with me. He's 4.
4? Okay.
I mean, he can speak with us. He can definitely talk to
Communicate.
us and communicate with us because we speak Roman, right?
Right.
Other kids like won't, and so a lot of times his way of communicating is like touching, and some parents don't like other kids touching their kids, right? Boundaries, and so it makes it very difficult for like us because we want to tell him, we want to explain to Roman, hey, like it's not okay to touch other kids, but that's literally the way
He's
he
communicating.
communicates.
He knows.
He wants you to touch this, and then like he's trying to just communicate what he wants you to do, and how he wants to play. And so, you know, we take him to the Children's Museum quite often. And one time, his kids just didn't want to play with him, and you can see his like little face get really defeated. And then he went into this like little hole that they have, and he just sat there. And he sat there for a minute, and he was in his little feelings. And then he came back out, and he was fine, right? Like
But see, I mean, that's understandable coming from another child, right? Like the kids don't understand that.
Yeah.
From an adult, you should understand and be more patient about a kid. And
be kind, man. Yeah, but
like,
some adults don't.
Yeah,
Like
right.
Kids are fine. Like again, I understand that kids don't grab that concept, but like when adults don't, yes, it irks me. But also, what am I? I mean, this is gonna be our life.
Yeah.
Am I gonna fight everyone
Right.
that's gonna, hurt my child's feelings? It's not possible,
Yeah.
right?
Right. You can't,
But-
and you're not gonna be there always too, But
So I mean, like as an adult with another adult though, that's like the biggest thing. I don't want, because you see these like viral videos of like adults getting triggered by kids and being like, well, why
Right.
should I have to pay for those people's decision to have a kid?
Right.
Like, are you kidding me?
That's where the world is at, and that's a really sad reality.
Like, that's our future. Who's
Yeah.
gonna pay your social security?
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, if we have
definitely.
social security,
Right.
If we have social security. But like, who's
But it's
gonna-
just like just etiquette again. Like I mean, like where did we go wrong? Where did we start getting so selfish and so self-indulged? Like well, this is bothering me, so
yeah.
And it's like
Social media.
it's not easy. Yeah, it is, but it's like it's not easy. Like
It's the
a
idea
kid-
of entitlement, right? Like that.
Yeah.
This is that I should be able to navigate the world without being like triggered. But again, like I said, I used to feel that way too, right? And it was like the world doesn't owe you anything.
Right.
You either get through it or you don't, right? And so, like finding ways to navigate it's hard. Again, like trust me, I get triggered all the time when I'm out and about and I see my little son's feelings get hurt. But what am I gonna do? Right?
Yeah.
Like he's got to figure it out. And I mean, like I said, as his development continues, he's probably gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Like it's just again, right now is a hard time for him. And again, and a lot of times, again, it's easier for me when Zach is around, because like things hurt my feelings, but he makes light of everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's a
That's the father's role, I think.
Yeah, my anxiety is here, and his anxiety is here, and so then it kind of like levels out.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of it.
Well, years ago, I used to be a nanny. Family had 2 girls, and they ended up having a 3rd girl. And then being girls, So I met them. I used to work at a Montessori school. I met them. The kids were literally months. So then I went in with the family and worked with them and all that good stuff. And I saw what you saw. I took them to the kids museum. I'll go to play dates at Chick-fil-A because they have the kids area there. or taken to library to interact with other kids and whatnot. But it's crazy to say kids are really mean nowadays, and they get along worse. Long years have come along. But I wanted them to teach them, develop their character, develop, it's okay. It's going to be tough, but just go back at it, and they're always so tiny. So they will always look so tiny according to their age. So I'm like, if she wanted to do the monkey bars, I'm like, let's go. I'm like, let's do this. Like, let's go for it.
Yeah. So I have the opposite thing. My son is huge, big.
Yeah.
He looks like he's 6 or 7, and he's.
Oh yeah.
No
yeah,
way.
He's. So people expect more of him than he
Right.
can offer.
Yeah.
And he's always been like 99 percentile for height. Like he's up there. I feel like I'm tall, so I'm 5'7", and
I'm like, yeah,
that's
you're
pretty big
tall,
too.
right?
He's
Yeah.
pretty broad. So again, our kid's just a big kid, and like again, people just expect more of him, and he doesn't have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I feel like social media is twofold, like for children, right? Because you see them comparing themselves to everything they see out there instead of just their own peer set in their school.
True.
Right? So I think that it can lead to really, really bad things, but also...
And adults.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So, but also on the opposite side, you see people, really come down on bullies, right?
Yeah.
Like really, really come down on bullies through social media. Like you're not, so I think that a lot of times people are pushed to be kinder through social media, right? So, and you see videos all the time, like, parents trying to do the right thing because their kid bullied another kid, right? And so again, I think that it's really nice and twofold. If you use anything, can be used for good or bad, right? So like if you use, a tool or a resource that you have at your disposal, like social media, for good.
Well, I feel like even bullying is a good thing, though.
You think bullying is a good thing?
Yeah. Obviously, there's boundaries to bullying, right?
So what are the boundaries?
So a bad boundary would be physical harm. But a simple like, ha ha ha, look everybody, this person, farted. Ooh, and but that teaches
The kid not to fart?
the farter or the fartee. It gives you a little resilience to a small microcosm of the big world, of that not everyone is going to be nice to you, and sometimes you do have to learn how to take care of yourself and get that life lesson of, okay, I thought some of these people were my friends. It gives you just a little dose of reality of what you're going to face in the future, instead of the naive thing of like, oh, everyone's going to be perfect and everyone's going to treat me right and life is going to be, dandy. And I think to a certain extent, brothers and sisters bully each other, sisters and sisters bully each other. And I think that's just a natural occurrence in nature because of that. It's a form of learning how to cope with the real world through people you enjoy or love or you think love you or that are a friend, but really, they were out to just, make you look bad. And so that part, like, again,
it's like exposure to the ugly part of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, hopefully to a limited expectation, I guess. Because, I was bullied, since for like first grade, second grade. And I feel like it definitely ruined me, but it took me a while to start realizing, like, man, like, I used to be big on what people thought about me and like what I was, expected to be like or act like in a sense. So then I started going internally and shutting myself down to overthinking and over like, thinking that people were always like judging me and looking at me, and I mean, I don't know if it helped me or not, but it took me up to in my way later in my adult life to realize, like, man, I don't care what people think, or I don't care, like, like sometimes where does that come from? Where does bullying come from? Usually from an internal thing that they don't like, or to deflect attention from themselves, or like, But there is
Something
limits
learned.
for sure. There is levels of it, I guess.
I think during a time where like you're very, very, I guess, impressionable, right? Teenagers are more likely to commit suicide. Right, they're just at a higher, statistic for it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes during those time periods it can be very difficult. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've been bullied and I've been the bullier.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of times, I got diagnosed really early on with psoriasis. And so I had like big plaques of psoriasis all over my arms really, really young. And I had pretty significant, like visible skin condition where middle school people aren't kind.
No,
right? So you
for
start
sure.
wearing
Kids are the worst.
Yeah,
They're the cruel. Yeah.
And so again, those insecure. I mean, again, you're right. You start deflecting. So you're gonna make fun of me. I'm gonna make fun of you, right? And then I'm gonna try to be worse at it. Like I'm gonna try to be meaner, right, about it.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it, and I'm not sure why they're initially bullying me. Again, something that's completely out of my control. It's a medical condition.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I can do about it. Right. And there's things that you could do. So bullying about like maybe your breath, that's gonna help you brush your teeth better.
Yep.
Right. Maybe bullying about not putting on your deodorant. Okay, yeah, like hygiene stuff. Sure, it's probably gonna make you.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Like there's layers to it.
Yeah.
Like,
There's that,
Yeah.
Again, so there's definitely layers to it. I can see that, definitely. But right, things that are completely out of your control, like what kind of shoes your mom bought you, or you know,
but I got bullied and stuff on that too, and it helped me create thicker skin, get a faster mouth, be able to react to the, you know, and then it taught me really early on, like, don't be so worried about what other people think. They don't know our circumstance. And then it also, you know, because then you become the bullier at a time too, and then you realize, hopefully, like, fuck, that didn't feel good, hurting that person's feelings. Then I became someone who stood up for people who were getting bullied, you know, or would at least say, hey man, y'all leave them alone, you know, like. So I think there's just but you also have to have people around you that are able to coach you through those things. And I think that's the problem with social media now is they can't avoid the bullying because now it's online everywhere.
One of them trolls, man.
And it's easier too because it's cowardly. You know, you're behind a phone. You're across the nation. You know, that's not really.
Yeah,
there's no positivity.
Strong. Yeah, you're being a little bitch.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely I've never really been materialistic, you know, but I did get bullied. My parents couldn't afford the Jordans. I couldn't afford Nikes even, you know. So it just wouldn't make sense to me, you know, because I was like the material doesn't make me, you know. Like, why don't you get to know what's inside of me and get to see who I am, and then judge me, you know. Right. But I don't know, man. I mean, I think it plays a part. Positive and negatively, you know, but it's like it's part of existence too, because like it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like the kids are going to be exposed to the world, the ugliness of the world, and the world is ugly, you know. And I mean, we live in America where it's not as complicated or as heavy as it could be in other countries and other places, you know, where it's like, I don't know, they're exposed to more violence or more like you know, bombs
poverty,
being exposed, poverty, like you know, going weeks without eating, maybe even, you know, like, I mean, and how do you teach that, you know, like if you don't travel, if you don't know other cultures, like how do you teach somebody that, you know? But I guess that's kind of off the topic.
No, but I agree. You know, bullying, you know, makes you grow thicker skin, makes you grow character in life. Then at the end of the day, you know, I always look at my hands, you know, I have small hands, so everything out of my hands, it's out of my control. So, you know, I can only do what I'm only capable of doing.
Is that what you got bullied about?
You'd be surprised.
I didn't
Small hands?
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
But see, I think that comes from an internal root, you know. Yeah. So it's like I have insecurities, so I'm gonna call out your insecurities to make myself feel better, you know.
And
so
I'm
then,
I was like, well, sucks to be you now, but I am here.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it could be at home, you know. Like the dad's always bagging on the kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's also, I think, the way that we grew up, right? So like, there's things that like from our son, right, that trigger us differently. Like, so my husband, when he was younger, was told, you know, don't whine, boys don't whine. So anytime that my son whines, he's like, don't whine, right? And I'm like, oh, come here, papacito, like, what's wrong, you know? So like, because that wasn't a thing for me, right? Like, I was allowed to express myself, and he wasn't. Yeah. Like, right? And so like that triggers him, and I have to like tell him, hey, like, why can't he whine? Well, he you know, he's a boy, or he's not supposed to do that, or blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's not a thing for me, right? But also there's things that like that trigger me that, you know, like,
Well,
I feel
he's
like
like-
I grew up and then I'm like, why is Roman doing that? Like, that's, you know, I've said this like, you know, 3 times. He understands. I was always rushed as a child, so I'm always rushing Roman, right? And so.
And see, that's not
You
a
gotta
bad
step back.
flaw. It's
Yeah,
a flaw,
yeah.
but it's not a bad flaw because it's what you know, it's what you were exposed to, it's what your programming taught you.
But we also
you know?
can grow, right?
Right.
So again, if you tell yourself you can't grow, I think that we talked about it earlier, right? And again, it's the ability to grow. Some people don't want to grow.
Yes.
Some people decide.
Or it's a scary thought to grow past that, you know?
I mean, like, why would you want to be stagnant?
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to be the same person your whole life?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. But
Fear,
again,
yeah.
But I
Fear.
mean, do you feel like maybe that's where you learn from your husband and then your husband learns from you, you know, as a parenting, as a co-parenting, you know?
yeah,
Like he teaches you things like in a different way and vice versa.
yeah. I think it's also again like I'm very thankful for the resources that we have, right? Like because he's on the spectrum, like we actually get parenting classes that are covered by the insurance, and so again, a lot of times.
Nice.
I feel like we have more resources than our parents did.
Yeah.
So we get to be better.
Yeah.
So I don't blame my parents for, I mean, a lot of times we're like, oh, our parents did this to us and blah, blah, blah. And we like to blame our mothers and fathers. And it's easy, right?
Yeah.
It is easy.
Mhm.
And again, we like to blame our parents, but like they didn't have the resources that we have. They did the best that they could with the resources that they had at the time that they had them, right? And so a lot of times, they only had what their parents did.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't have social media. They didn't have like all these parenting books.
Right.
They didn't have all these things that, you know, they didn't have the internet. They could just Google like,
Yeah.
hey, you know, how can I help my kid in this aspect, right? So they didn't have the resources that we have. I think that we don't have an excuse to not be better.
Exactly.
right.
There's no
You
excuse.
said
We have
it.
so many resources at our fingertips. I mean, I haven't seen a person that isn't stuck to their phone like all the time,
Yeah.
right? Except for like your chair side. Like I'm chair side, so you're chair side. So we probably the most interaction that we get is with our like clients, right? But like people who are not chair side, like you have access to your phone consistently all the time. Like why don't you like you have the resources to try to grow, right? And so again, like I feel like, you know, me and my husband did learn a lot from each other, and we try to see each other's point of view a lot, but a lot of it was also very like internal, right? Like we've talked about it before, that until I had my son, I was a man hater. Like I hated men, right? Not like blatantly, right? But I'm sure that there was things and choices that I made based off of like my distrust and abandonment issues, because when we talked about it right before we started, we were talking about how like again we didn't know our dads, right? And our dads weren't part of our life.
Yeah.
And so like my dad not being part of my life, I had abandonment issues. I felt like men couldn't be trusted. I didn't have a foundation for like
A good man.
a good man. Exactly.
Yeah, most definitely. There was no foundation. And like you said a couple of minutes ago, you know, that you thought, you know, that the world was owed you something.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I went through that phase. Unfortunately, I got in trouble a lot of times, back to back. And, you know, at this rate, I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with me? This is not the best life of living life, because holy fuck. And, you know, and unfortunately, you know, have to come into mind, you know, I read books, because at times I have to need to skip my head at times. So many thoughts, and like, you know, I need to like escape. And so, you know, I read a book that said, like, you know, nobody owes you anything out there, you know. At the same time, you know, you cannot continue on blaming. You have to continue on taking it flipping it into a positive way of, you know, being thank you for this, thank you for that, you know. Even with my own dad, I'm like, you know, I analyzed, you know, and thinking about it. We communicated last year for the first time. It was his birthday. Never reached out or anything. Until this day, he still gets my name wrong. So, you know, I said, you know, me and you are not alike. We will never be alike. You are my father. I do carry your blood in me. So I reached out and I told him, like, hey, happy birthday, you know, blah, blah, whatever. You know, there's a saying, though, that the older you get, the wiser you get. So I'm like, how's that wiseness coming in for you?
You're like still waiting for it,
Right?
Dad.
Yeah, that too. So, and I was like, you know, at the end of the day, you did what you did. You know, it is what it is. I came to understand I do not need a father at this point in life. if anything, maybe a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
But over that, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think that there was times that I really did need a dad. Like I needed someone that was in my corner, right? That was protective, and I didn't have that. And it left something. Like it did leave a hole. I mean, I have to be able to admit the hole that he left, because I think sometimes we're like, well, I didn't need him. I didn't need this. I didn't need that. I don't need anybody, right? And not being able to acknowledge the hole that someone left by their abandonment or their lack of presence, right, is super important for you to be able to heal.
Yeah.
Right.
And will they ever understand the impact that they did, that they caused? Like they probably were like, damn, that was wrong. But the real true damage that happened, they might not ever really see it or understand
and it. It's difficult. So like I reached out to my dad when I was, I think, in like high school, and I got super excited. And again, during a very impressionable time in my life, I was like, hey, I'm gonna call you tomorrow at 1:00. Mm-hmm. I called him tomorrow expecting him to be
ready
to the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude was at the bar. And my grandma was like, hey, he's at the bar, I'm sorry.
Oh,
right?
man.
And like after
See,
that,
that's what I'm talking about.
I was done.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, I'm making why am I the one making the effort, right? And so he reached out after I graduated dental school, and I felt some type of way about it. I was like, oh, you're gonna reach out now that I'm successful. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Convenient,
So,
Yes.
So then I never made the effort. At that point, I'm like, this time I'm gonna make him do the effort. Didn't ever reach back out to me. Didn't ever try. So I was like, I'm not putting in the effort this time. Right?
Yeah.
And last year he passed away, and I was surprised at how much it hurt. Like it really hurt to the point where like I was uncomfortable with the amount that I cried. Right, sure. Because I never met him, right? Like it's not someone that was part of my life. Yeah. And my husband was like, I think that you're having, this response because what could have been, right? Like the things that you could have had. And what added salt to the wound was that, one of his brothers got really upset that none of his children showed up. He had 9 children with 7 different women. Right?
Wow.
All these, Lord have mercy. Yes.
So none of his children showed up, and we're like, what did you expect from us? Like, there was no.
You reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow, right? There was no connection, and again,
no love, bridges,
no attempt,
and that
no
being said, right?
Effort, yeah.
Me and my sister, the one that I actually do have contact with, me and my sister actually did feel really bad about it. Like we felt hurt. Like we were surprised at how much it did affect us, right? And like we did suffer the loss. Whether anyone in the family, it wasn't outward. We didn't make a video. We didn't call anyone. We didn't scream at anyone. Mine was very private, very in my own home, in my own space. Like it was, And again, I had to heal that portion of me so I could be a better mother, so I could be a better wife, right? Because ultimately, like I want my son to be a great dad. I want my son to be able to have a healthy relationship with his wife or his girlfriend later on.
And that starts now, like you start teaching them this structure now and this. Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the reasons I don't have kids, because I had a broken home. I don't want to have a uncompleted, home or whatever the situation might be, and not having a father figure, I know what it is, the impact that it makes. Because, you have to learn how to do things for yourself and by yourself.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think that I was so driven and ambitious for, right? Because I didn't want to not be able to, like, provide for myself, right? Yeah. Because, again, broken home, right? Yeah. So both me and my husband come from, like, we come from both broken homes, so that was, like, our biggest drive to be better. Yeah. Like, we've had major disagreements. We've had big fights. We've had huge, come to Jesus moments where we're like, do we want our son to grow up the same way that we did, right? And again, that was one of the biggest factors of like, okay, well, if we don't want that, we need to do better. Yeah. And how do we grow? How do we make that happen? Do we go to therapy? Do we read books? Do we like what are the steps that we can take to be better people, right?
And that already is big. That already is just the fact that y'all can come to that conclusion and say, okay, we need to play a part and a big part into doing something for somebody else, and for, because this kid's gonna go into society, and who is he gonna be? No, that's awesome. Power to you.
That's the beauty of the responsibility of parenthood.
Yeah.
And they're taking the responsibility too,
yeah,
right?
because it's outside of you.
Yeah.
It's not about you anymore, and you live such a selfish life up to that point. And that's why I think having kids is so important for us as humans, because sometimes you'll see the bitter 60-year-old woman or dude still talking shit about people, still talking rumors about people. And I think it's a lot to do with that, is either they had kids and didn't give two shits about them, so they never realized like life is more than just me. And I feel like that's a big issue sometimes, where at least I see it in men, where like, dude, I just want to party and keep, I'm always there's always gonna be girls, there's always gonna be somewhere to go, and I'm never gonna get old. And then they get old.
Yeah.
And then same thing with women now, especially more now because of the feminist movement has brought so much more of that to the feminine side. So now we're starting to see that, I feel like, in some women, where they're getting into their 40s and 50s, and they're starting to realize like, well, shit, the career is awesome, but I don't have anybody to share it with now. And, we're just losing it.
Yeah.
And we're losing it quick. And I just want to bring that to light to people and say, hey, sometimes tradition is not bad. It's okay to have some traditions, and it's okay to be a person that doesn't go through the tradition and is the rule breaker and is, the successful woman in the family and help so many other people within the family get into a better spot. And there's always exceptions to the rule, and we should, embrace that, but also realize like sometimes it's okay to not be the exception and to live a full, heartful life with, having a family and raising a kid. And because I think that in today's society, that's why we don't respect kids, is because we think kids are an anchor, and they're gonna stop you from having dreams and ambitions. And I don't feel like that's the case.
Whew.
But for Frida Kahlo, I think we're done.
Yeah, because just to say one more thing on what you were just saying, like I think it's important, because like you hear a lot of like, oh, I don't need a man, or I don't need a woman. Like I think that's harmful or hurtful, and it hurts a lot of people, because it's not about needing somebody. It's about choosing to have somebody walk the walk with you, walk that life with you, and to unite, and to be like, okay, we created someone, we created a few someones. Let's raise them right, and let's show them. Let's give them the tools and the weapons they need: structure, foundation, responsibility, respect, consideration, and in self-dependency. I think that's big, because it's like, first time you get your heart broken, first time you get a no, you can resort to drugs, you can resort to womanizing, you can resort to porn, you can resort to all kinds of vices that are just destructive, rather than, okay, I can handle this. I can look inside myself. I got my heart broken. It's not my fault. It's not me, This person didn't respect me. This person didn't honor me, but I do respect myself and I do honor myself. Let me keep walking.
But that's the necessity of the two-parent system.
Yes.
Whether your dad is an asshole, whether your mom kind of ignores you sometimes, like still having that structure does so much for the psyche. And I see that a lot in people and in clients, and it's sad because they don't understand like why shit is happening the way it is, and it's just because like the balance of a mother and father is freaking necessary.
Yeah. And it's easy to blame your parents, like you said earlier. It's easy to say, "Oh, because of my mom, I'm like this. Because of my dad, I'm like this." And I'm not trying to like throw shade on anybody, because it's like at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own upcoming and what's next and what our future is gonna be like and who we interact with.
So there's a lot of I choose along the way.
Yeah.
As long as we still continue on choosing and search and
progressing.
Yeah, most definitely, and better ourselves along the way. We all have a brighter future coming along. But
Cool.
Well, we got a tattoo done in the time.
See?
Show Frida.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Look at that.
Dude, this is fucking sick.
Yeah.
Damn.
She fit right in with the
Mhm,
rest
she
of the
did.
watercolor.
Yeah.
And she used to do a lot of marisoles too, so like it
Uh-huh.
actually fits in really well.
Yeah,
She
when
did a
she
lot
said
of
Frida, I was
sunflowers.
like, on this side,
Yeah.
it's gonna work.
Wow, this is fucking awesome.
And butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Oh,
She
yeah.
had a lot of, so
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
meant to fit. Yeah.
Trust me, when I saw the butterfly poem under Ahí en su cama de la noche, then
Yeah.
then I was like, wow.
This, yeah. It was a good fit.
It hit a lot harder. Yeah. Damn, dude, it's fucking great.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on another
course.
episode.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having us.
Good
Yeah,
talk.
it was great.
Good
It was
talk.
fun.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Yes. On a Sunday, fuck it.